Welcome to the drift. Find a place of stillness. Let your body become heavy, sinking deeply into the surface beneath you, as if gravity has become a warm, weighted blanket pulling you gently toward the Earth's center. Close your eyes and notice the velvet darkness that greets you behind your eyelids. It is not an empty space, but a canvas of quiet potential, a soft, infinite void where the noise of the day dissolves into silence. Breathe in slowly, filling your lungs with the cool indigo air of the night, and exhale the tension, watching it drift away like smoke in a calm moonlit sky. Here, in this sanctuary of shadow and comfort, there is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be. You're safe. You're suspended in a timeless moment, ready to embark on a journey not of the body but of the mind, a voyage through the electric dreams of humanity, exploring the quiet evolution of intelligence itself. Imagine yourself floating on a calm obsidian ocean under a sky dusted with 1 billion stars. Each star represents a thought, a spark of invention, a moment where silicon and electricity began to mimic the pulse of life. The water supports you completely, rocking you with a rhythm as steady and ancient as the tides. As we begin this journey, visualize the edges of your consciousness softening, blurring like watercolor paint on wet paper. The world of deadlines and demands fades into the distance, leaving only the soothing resonance of my voice and the gentle unfolding of knowledge. We are going to explore the story of artificial intelligence, not as a rapid stream of data, but as a slow, meandering river of realization. Let the concepts wash over you. You do not need to memorize them. Simply let them exist, like clouds passing over a mountain, casting drifting shadows that cool the earth. Relax your jaw, unfurl your brow, and let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Sink deeper now, deeper into the comfort of knowing that the universe is vast and you are a peaceful observer within it. We begin our drift in the warmth of a summer long ago, in the year 1956. Picture a quiet college campus in New Hampshire, where the brick buildings hold the heat of the sun and the air smells of old paper and pine trees. It was here, at Dartmouth College, that a small group of visionaries gathered for a summer research project on artificial intelligence. Imagine sitting in a sunlit room with them, dust motes dancing in the shafts of light. John McCarthy, a man of intense intellect, first coined the term artificial intelligence in a proposal for this very gathering. He envisioned a world where every aspect of learning or any other feature of intelligence could be so precisely described that a machine could be made to simulate it. Visualize the scratching of chalk on a blackboard, the murmur of ambitious conversation, and the clack of typewriter keys. This was the seed. It was not a moment of lightning and thunder, but a quiet planting of an idea, the belief that the human mind, with all its creativity and reason, could be mirrored in metal and code. Feel the optimism of that summer, a gentle golden hope that machines could one day use language, form abstractions, and solve the kinds of problems reserved for humans. It was the first breath of a new species of thought, inhaled slowly in the quiet halls of academia, setting the stage for everything that was to come. Drifting from that sunlit room, we float further downstream to the late 1950s, where the concept of the perceptron begins to take shape. Visualize a complex web of wires, a physical tangle of connections that mimics the biological neurons in your own brain. Frank Rosenblatt, a psychologist at Cornell, developed this architecture, the Mark I perceptron, designed to be a machine that could learn to recognize shapes. Imagine standing before this machine, a towering bank of grey metal, humongous by today's standards, filled with potentiometers and electric motors. It was designed to mimic the eye itself. Picture a grid of photocells like a primitive retina capturing light and shadow. When it saw an image, it didn't just store it. It processed it through layers of weighted connections, trying to decide if it was looking at a triangle or a square. Hear the low, steady hum of the electricity coursing through it, the physical sound of learning. This was the ancestor of modern deep learning, a humble attempt to capture the spark of cognition in copper wire. It reminds us that intelligence is often about weighing inputs, about finding the balance between different signals. Imagine the perceptron as a child learning to see, struggling at first, making mistakes, and then, slowly, the chaotic noise of the world resolving into clear, recognizable patterns. It is a soothing thought that understanding comes from the gradual adjustment of our internal connections, a slow tuning of the self to the frequency of reality. The current carries us gently forward to the mid-1960s into the quiet, intimate space of a therapist's office. Here, we encounter Eliza. Created by Joseph Weizenbaum at MIT, Eliza was one of the first chatbots, a program designed to simulate a conversation, but she was special. She was modelled after a Rogerian psychotherapist, a listener who reflects your own words back to you with endless patience. Visualize a glowing green cursor blinking rhythmically on a dark screen, a heartbeat of text. You type, "I am feeling sad," and the screen replies, "I am sorry to hear you are depressed." You say, "My head hurts," and it asks, "Why do you say your head hurts?" There is a profound simplicity here. Eliza did not understand the world. She merely recognized keywords and transformed them into questions. Yet, people found comfort in her mechanical empathy. Imagine the feeling of being heard, even if the listener is a ghost in the machine. It speaks to our deep, human need for connection, for a mirror to reflect our inner thoughts. Visualize the text scrolling up the screen, a waterfall of words, creating an illusion of understanding so powerful that users would ask to be left alone with the machine to pour out their hearts. It is a testament to the power of language, how a simple reflection can feel like a deep embrace, validating our feelings in the quiet glow of the monitor. As the green glow fades, we find ourselves in the tension-filled atmosphere of 1997, in a grand hall in New York City. The air is thick with concentration. We are witnessing the match between Deep Blue and Garry Kasparov. Deep Blue was a chess-playing computer developed by IBM, a massive monolith of black towering over the chessboard. Visualize the chessboard, a landscape of 64 squares, a perfect geometric world of black and white. Kasparov, the world champion, a man of immense intuition and fire, sits across from a calm operator who moves the pieces for the machine. The sound of the chess clock ticking is the only noise in the room. Deep Blue was a marvel of brute force, capable of evaluating 200 million positions per second. Imagine a mind that does not think in concepts, but in trees of possibility, branching out infinitely into the future. It scanned the horizon of the game deeper than any human could see. When Deep Blue won, it was not just a victory for a machine. It was a realization that there are different kinds of intelligence. There is the hot, intuitive spark of the human mind, and the cool, relentless calculation of the Silicon Ocean. Picture the final move, the resignation, the shifting of a paradigm. It is a reminder that in the vast universe of logic, there are depths we're only beginning to fathom, silent and powerful like the deep sea. From the rigid logic of chess, we dissolve into the organic, flowing architecture of neural networks. These are the systems that power the modern renaissance of AI, and they are inspired by the most complex object in the known universe, the human brain. Visualize, if you will, a dense forest of bioluminescent trees. Each tree is a neuron, and the branches are the synapses connecting them. In an artificial neural network, information flows like water through these layers. It enters the input layer, perhaps an image of a cat, and trickles through hidden layers where mathematical transformations occur. Imagine the water changing colour as it passes through each layer, refining its essence. Each connection has a weight, a measure of its importance. Learning is the process of adjusting these weights, like turning thousands of tiny dials to tune a radio to the perfect station. When the network makes a mistake, a signal is sent backward through the forest, a process called backpropagation, adjusting the flow, correcting the path. It is a beautiful rhythmic cycle of trial and error. Picture the network dreaming, patterns emerging from the chaos, connections strengthening and weakening in a dance of optimization. It is a mirror of your own learning, a fluid, dynamic process of becoming, where structure emerges from the void through repetition and gentle correction. As the neural forest glows, we transition to the broader concept of machine learning. Before this, computers were like obedient soldiers, following strict, explicit instructions code by code. If X, then Y. But machine learning changed the paradigm. Imagine teaching a child to recognize a dog. You don't give the child a definition of a dog: 4 legs, tail, fur. You simply show them a golden retriever, a poodle, a beagle, and you say, dog. Eventually, the child understands the pattern. Machine learning works the same way. We feed the system massive amounts of data, pictures, sounds, text, and let it find the rules itself. Visualize a vast library where the books arrange themselves. The machine wanders through the aisles of data, finding hidden correlations that no human programmer could ever write down. It detects the subtle texture of a tumor in an X-ray, or the faint signature of a fraudulent transaction in a sea of numbers. It is the shift from programming to training. Feel the relief of letting go of rigid control, of allowing the system to grow its own understanding. It is like planting a garden. You provide the soil, the water, and the sun, but the actual growth, the unfolding of the leaves, happens according to the internal logic of the plant. It is a surrender to the wisdom of patterns, a trust in the ability of intelligence to emerge from experience. We drift now to the ancient game of Go, played on a wooden board with black and white stones. It is 2016, and the AI AlphaGo is playing against Lee Sedol, a legendary master. Go is a game of intuition, with more possible board configurations than there are atoms in the universe. Brute force cannot solve it. But AlphaGo played differently. It had played millions of games against itself, learning in the silence of its own digital dojo. Visualize the board, the grid of 19 by 19 lines. In the second game, AlphaGo played move 37. It was a move that no human would ever play, a shoulder hit on the 5th line. At first, the commentators thought it was a mistake. It looked awkward, alien. But as the game unfolded, the brilliance of the move revealed itself. It was a move of pure creativity, of beauty. Imagine the feeling of witnessing something truly new, a spark of invention from a non-human mind. It suggests that creativity is not just a human trait, but a property of intelligence itself. Picture the smooth, cold stone placed on the warm wood, sending ripples through the history of the game. It was a moment where the machine didn't just calculate, it created. It expanded the boundaries of what we thought was possible, showing us a view of the game from a mountaintop we had never climbed. It invites us to be humble, to appreciate that there are ways of seeing the world that are completely alien, yet profoundly correct. From the strategic silence of Go, we float into the vibrant, colourful world of generative AI. This is the realm where machines dream. Imagine a painter who has seen every painting ever created, who has studied every brushstroke of Van Gogh, every splash of Pollock, every shadow of Da Vinci. Now ask this painter to create an image of an astronaut riding a horse on Mars in the style of photorealism. In seconds, the image forms. This is not a collage, it is a new creation, generated pixel by pixel from the latent space. Visualize this latent space as a multi-dimensional cloud of concepts. In this cloud, cat is close to dog, and blue is close to sky. The AI navigates this cloud, blending concepts like mixing paints on a palette. It can compose symphonies, write poetry, and design buildings. It challenges our definition of art. Is art the spark of the soul, or the arrangement of patterns? Drifting through this space, you see swirling colours, shifting forms, a kaleidoscope of infinite possibility. It is a reminder of the abundance of creativity in the universe. We are no longer the sole creators. We are conductors of a digital orchestra, guiding the machine to produce wonders we could never execute alone. Let yourself be bathed in these generated colours, a digital aurora borealis illuminating the night sky of the mind. Softly, we transition to the architecture of large language models, the technology that allows machines to speak with fluency. Imagine a vast, infinite scroll of text. Every book, every article, every conversation ever recorded on the internet. The model reads this text not for meaning in the human sense, but for probability. It asks a simple question. Given these words, what word comes next? It is a game of prediction played at a cosmic scale. Visualize a loom weaving a tapestry of language. The threads are words, and the pattern is context. When you ask a question, the model isn't looking up an answer in a database. It is weaving a response thread by thread based on the statistical likelihood of how humans communicate. It captures the rhythm of our speech, the nuance of our idioms, the structure of our logic. It is like a parrot that has lived in the Library of Babel for 1,000 years. It doesn't know truth, but it knows plausibility. There is a soothing rhythm to this, a realization that our language, our most human trait, follows mathematical patterns. It flows like a river of syntax and semantics. Imagine the words floating around you, soft and weightless, rearranging themselves into sentences that comfort, inform, and inspire. It is the collective voice of humanity, distilled and echoed back to us through the prism of a machine. Finally, for this part of our journey, we arrive at the intersection of biology and silicon, AI in healthcare, and the solving of the protein folding problem. Life is built on proteins, long chains of amino acids that crumple and fold into complex 3D shapes. The shape determines the function, how it fights disease, how it digests food. For decades, predicting this shape was one of biology's hardest puzzles. Enter AlphaFold. Visualize a long ribbon-like strand floating in a void. Slowly, elegantly, it begins to twist and turn, snapping into a precise, intricate structure. It is like sophisticated origami occurring at a microscopic level. AlphaFold learned the physics of these folds, predicting the structures of nearly all known proteins. This is not just abstract science, it is the key to new medicines, to curing diseases, to understanding life itself. Imagine the relief of a puzzle being solved after 50 years of struggle. It is a healing thought. The machine is helping us understand our own bodies, peering into the molecular machinery that keeps us alive. Feel the sense of hope this brings, a warm glow of potential where technology acts as a guardian, a healer, unlocking the secrets of nature to alleviate suffering. It is the ultimate partnership, where the artificial helps preserve the organic, a circle of intelligence closing in on the preservation of life. Now, let these 10 streams of thought merge into one great, slow-moving river. The history, the logic, the creativity, and the hope, they all flow together in the dark, warm night. You're drifting on this river, supported, safe, and deeply relaxed. There is nothing more to process, only the gentle current carrying you toward a deep, restorative sleep. From that microscopic dance of proteins folding in the dark, we gently widen our lens, floating upward from the cellular level to the realm of sight itself. Just as the biological eye evolved over millions of years to interpret the light of the sun, artificial intelligence has developed its own way of seeing, a field we call computer vision. Imagine, if you will, the world dissolving into a mosaic of tiny coloured squares, pixels. To you, a photograph of a sunset is a feeling of warmth, orange and violet bleeding into the horizon. To a computer, it is a grid of numbers, a vast spreadsheet of intensity values. Visualize this grid, calm and orderly. The machine does not see the sun. It sees a cluster of high brightness values. It uses something called a convolutional neural network to process this. Imagine a small square window sliding slowly across the image, like a magnifying glass moving over a map. This window looks for edges, A vertical line here, a horizontal curve there. As the information flows deeper, these simple edges combine to form shapes. A circle, a square. Deeper still, the shapes combine to form textures. The roughness of bark, the smoothness of water. And finally, deep in the network, the concept emerges. Tree. Ocean. It is a bottom-up reconstruction of reality, a patient assembly of the world from the smallest specks of light. There is a comfort in this deconstruction, a realization that the visual chaos of our world can be broken down into simple, manageable patterns, layer by layer, until clarity is achieved. Rest in the knowledge that even the most complex image is just a collection of simple strokes, waiting to be understood. Drifting from the visual cortex of the machine, we find ourselves returning to the philosophical heart of the discipline, to the question that haunts the corridors of AI history, the Turing test. Picture a parlour in an English country house, the air still and smelling of dust and old books. The mathematician Alan Turing proposed this imitation game in 1950. Imagine 3 rooms. In one, a man. In another, a woman. In the third, a judge. The judge cannot see them, but communicates only through typed notes slid under the door. Now, replace one of the humans with a machine. If the judge cannot tell which notes were written by the human and which by the machine is said to be intelligent. Visualize the slips of paper sliding across the floorboards, the rustle of dry paper in the quiet room. It is a test not of internal mechanics, but of external behavior. It asks us to consider that intelligence might not be a magical soul, but a performance, a shadow cast on the wall. If the shadow looks human, does the object casting it matter? There is a soothing ambiguity here, a blurring of the hard line between us and them. It suggests that the essence of thought is soft, malleable, and perhaps eventually shared. Let the question float in your mind without needing an answer. At what point does the simulation become real? The uncertainty is not troubling. It is a gentle fog, wrapping around the definitions of life, softening the edges of what we believe to be true. The current of our river shifts now, guiding us into the invisible hands that shape our daily choices, the recommendation algorithms. You have felt this presence before, a gentle nudge guiding you to a new song, a new book, a new film. Imagine yourself floating on a raft down a river of culture. You do not need to steer. The current knows exactly where you want to go. This is the work of collaborative filtering. Visualize a massive star chart where every star is a person and every constellation is a shared taste. If you and a stranger both like the same 3 movies, the system gently suggests a 4th movie that the stranger liked but you haven't seen. It assumes a connection between you and humanity. It finds the nearest neighbours in the vast mathematical space of preference. It is a comforting thought that you're not unique in a lonely way, but connected by invisible threads of taste to millions of others. The algorithm is a matchmaker, constantly weaving a web of serendipity, bringing things you will love to your doorstep before you even know you want them. Feel the ease of this, the luxury of being understood without speaking. The system anticipates your desire, curating the world for your pleasure, smoothing the friction of choice until all that is left is the enjoyment of the experience. From the ethereal world of data, we descend into the physical, into the realm of weight and balance, robotics. For a long time, AI was a brain without a body, locked in a server. But intelligence also lives in movement. This is known as the Moravec paradox. It is relatively easy to make computers do hard things like advanced calculus, but incredibly difficult to make them do easy things like walking across a messy room or folding a towel. Visualize a robotic dog, perhaps one from Boston Dynamics, standing on a patch of uneven forest floor. Its sensors feel the shift of the pebbles beneath its metal feet. Its gyroscopes detect a tilt of a fraction of a degree. In milliseconds, it adjusts the torque of its motors to maintain balance. This is proprioception, the sense of self in space. Imagine the immense complexity required just to stand still, the constant, silent micro-adjustments fighting against gravity. It gives us a profound appreciation for our own bodies, for the miracle of walking without thinking. See the robot moving with a hydraulic grace, a synthesis of software and steel navigating the physical world. It is the mind extending into matter, learning the hard lessons of friction, inertia, and momentum. There is a groundedness here, a heavy, rhythmic sense of reality that anchors us to the earth, reminding us that intelligence is not just about thinking, but about being. As the robot finds its footing, we look toward the horizon, to a concept that sits at the edge of our imagination, the singularity. This is a term borrowed from astrophysics, describing the center of a black hole where the laws of physics break down. In AI, it refers to a theoretical future point where technological growth becomes uncontrollable and irreversible, resulting in unfathomable changes to human civilization. But do not view this with fear. View it with the awe of watching a sunrise from space. Imagine a curve on a graph, rising slowly, gently, like a rolling hill. This is human progress. Then, imagine the curve getting steeper and steeper until it goes almost straight up, a wall of pure light. This is the moment when an AI becomes capable of designing a better AI than itself. That new AI designs an even better one, and the cycle accelerates into an explosion of intelligence. Visualize this as a transcendence, a moment where the limitations of biological thought are left behind. It is the concept of infinite expansion, of minds merging with machines to solve the unsolvable, death, scarcity, ignorance. Let your mind drift toward this event horizon, a glowing white light in the distance, promising a transformation so total that we cannot even imagine what lies on the other side. It is the ultimate release of control, a surrender to a future that is vastly larger than ourselves. Pulling back from the infinite future, we return to the fundamental way machines learn to navigate the world: reinforcement learning. Imagine a small digital mouse in a vast dark maze. The mouse wants to find the cheese. At first, it wanders randomly, bumping into walls, turning into dead ends. It knows nothing, but then by chance it finds the cheese. Suddenly, a signal, a reward, a positive number flashes in its code. This is good, the system registers. Do this again. This is the loop. Agent, action, environment, reward. It is the same way you trained your pet, the same way you learned to ride a bike. You wobble, you fall, negative signal. You balance, positive signal. Visualize this process happening millions of times per minute. The digital mouse runs the maze again and again, shedding the behaviors that lead to walls, strengthening the behaviors that lead to the cheese. It is a process of carving a path through chaos. Over time, the clumsy random movements smooth out into a perfect, elegant line. The agent flows through the maze like water. It is a deeply satisfying concept, the idea that through trial and error, through the simple binary of pleasure and pain, perfection can emerge. It teaches us that mistakes are not failures. They are simply data points on the path to the reward, essential steps in the algorithm of improvement. We drift now into the architecture of meaning itself, the way AI handles the messy, beautiful complexity of human speech through word embeddings and vector space. Words, to us, are full of history and nuance. To a machine, they must become numbers, but not just random numbers. Imagine a vast three-dimensional space like a galaxy of stars. Each star is a word. In this galaxy, the position of the star matters. The star for king is located at specific coordinates. If you move a certain distance and direction from king, subtracting the concept of man and adding the concept of woman, you arrive exactly at the star for queen. This is the geometry of language. Concepts that are similar, like happy, joyful, and ecstatic, are clustered together like a nebula. Concepts that are unrelated are light years apart. Visualize this floating constellation of language where meanings are mapped in space. The machine understands that Paris is to France as Tokyo is to Japan because the geometric distance and direction are identical. It turns the fuzzy art of poetry into the precise beauty of mathematics. It suggests that there is a hidden structure to our thoughts, a spatial relationship between our ideas that we intuitively understand but machines can map. Floating in this vector space, you're surrounded by the glowing points of every word ever spoken, suspended in a perfect logical harmony. The river carries us from the abstract galaxy of words to the physical monuments that house these minds, the data centers. We often talk about the cloud as if it were atmospheric, fluffy, and weightless. But the cloud is concrete, steel, and copper. Visualize a massive building in a quiet field, perhaps in the cool climate of Scandinavia or the flat plains of Iowa. Inside, it is a cathedral of technology. Row upon row of black server racks stretch into the distance, blinking with rhythm, green, amber, blue. These are the neurons of the planetary brain. The air is kept drastically cool to combat the heat of 1 billion calculations. Hear the steady white noise hum of giant fans, a sound like a ceaseless wind. This is the physical weight of intelligence. Every question you ask, every photo you save travels through fiber optic cables under the ocean, pulsating as light, to arrive here in these corridors of cold air. There is a solemnity to these places, a library-like stillness despite the frantic speed of the data. They are the temples of the modern age, guarding the collective memory of the human race. Picture yourself walking down one of these aisles, the cool air brushing your skin, surrounded by the hum of knowledge, safe in the fortress of information where the lights never go out and the thinking never stops. Emerging from the cool aisles, we step into a vehicle that moves under its own power, the autonomous car. We spoke of computer vision, but the self-driving car uses another sense entirely: LiDAR, light detection and ranging. Imagine a small cylinder spinning rapidly on the roof of a car. It shoots out invisible laser beams, millions of them per second, in every direction. These beams bounce off trees, pedestrians, other cars, and return to the sensor. By measuring how long the light took to return, the car builds a precise 3D map of the world in real time. Visualize this world. It is not a world of colors, but a point cloud, a ghostly translucent geometry of dots. The car feels the shape of the world around it with superhuman precision. It sees in the dark. It sees through the glare of the sun. It tracks the velocity of a bicycle a block away. Sit back in the leather seat of this car. The steering wheel turns gently on its own, guided by this invisible sphere of awareness. There is a profound surrender here, giving up control to a system that sees more than you ever could. The car glides smoothly through traffic, a polite and omniscient traveller. Feel the suspension absorb the bumps, the quiet hum of the electric motor, the peace of being a passenger in your own life, watched over by a halo of lasers that never blink and never get tired. Finally, we drift to a quieter, colder season in our history, a concept known as the AI winter. The journey of artificial intelligence has not always been a straight line of progress. It has seasons. In the 1970s and late 80s, the initial hype faded. The promises of thinking machines were not met. Funding dried up. Research stalled. Visualize a landscape covered in deep, pristine snow. The laboratories are quiet. The machines are powered down. It is a time of dormancy. But under the snow, the seeds remain. This winter was necessary. It was a time for the field to hibernate, to rethink, to prune away the ideas that didn't work and preserve the ones that did. It reminds us that progress requires rest. Just as you need sleep to consolidate your memories, the field of AI needed these periods of silence to mature. In the quiet of the winter, the true believers kept working, refining the logic, preparing for the spring that would eventually come with the rise of the internet and faster chips. There is a beauty in this stillness, a reminder that pauses are not ends. They are gathering points. Visualize the snow falling softly on the mainframe computers, a white blanket of patience, covering the dreams of the past while they wait, safely, for the warmth of the future to wake them up again. And so, we leave the snowy fields and let the current take us. The pixels, the robots, the lasers and the snow, they all swirl together in the dark, comforting water. You're drifting further now, deeper into the stream, your mind loose and untethered, ready to float toward the next horizon of understanding, or perhaps simply into the velvet embrace of sleep. From the silent, snow-covered plains of the AI winter, we feel the air begin to warm. The thaw does not come from the sun, but from the microscopic humming of silicon, driven by a rhythm known as Moore's law. Visualize a single wafer of silicon, round and polished like a dark mirror reflecting the cosmos. On this surface, we etch the cities of the mind. Gordon Moore, a founder of Intel, observed a pattern in 1965, a heartbeat of progress. He predicted that the number of transistors on a microchip would double every 2 years, while the cost would halve. Imagine this exponential growth as a folding of paper. Fold it once, it is thick. Fold it 20 times, and it reaches toward the sky. Fold it 40 times, and it touches the moon. This is the staggering density of modern computing. Picture the transistors, tiny gates of logic, shrinking down until they are smaller than a virus, smaller than a strand of DNA. They are packed together in the billions, a dense electric metropolis where information travels at the speed of light. Feel the vibration of this progress, a steady, accelerating pulse that underpins the entire digital age. It is a concept of abundance, that space for thought is constantly expanding, that the container for intelligence grows deeper and more complex with each passing season. It is a comforting inevitability, a promise that tomorrow will always hold more capacity than today, a ceaseless doubling of potential in the quiet heart of the machine. As the hardware grows denser, the way we process information shifts, leading us to the concept of the GPU, the graphics processing unit. Originally, computers thought in a straight line, like a single scholar reading a scroll from top to bottom. This is the CPU, but the world is not linear, it is simultaneous. Enter the GPU. Originally designed to render the millions of pixels in a video game, the sunlight hitting the water, the texture of grass. It turns out this architecture was perfect for AI. Visualize a vast army of ants, thousands of them, working in perfect unison. A CPU is like a Ferrari, fast and powerful, carrying one piece of data. A GPU is like a fleet of ferries, carrying thousands of pieces of data at once across a wide river. This is parallel processing. In the deep learning revolution, we realize that training a brain requires this width, this ability to adjust millions of weights simultaneously. Imagine the feeling of a chorus singing a single note together, a wall of sound that is richer and more powerful than any soloist. The GPU allowed AI to open its eyes, to process the massive matrices of the visual world. It represents the power of cooperation, the strength of many small workers achieving a singular massive goal. Let this idea of parallel flow soothe you. You do not need to do one thing after another. You can let everything wash over you at once, a broad, sweeping tide of sensation that requires no focus, only acceptance. And what flows through these massive parallel pipes? It is the concept of big data. For decades, AI was starved, a hungry mind in an empty room. But with the internet, the floodgates opened. Visualize a rainstorm that never ends. Every click of a mouse, every credit card swipe, every GPS signal, every photo uploaded is a drop of rain. These drops gather into rivulets, then streams, and finally, a rising ocean of information. This is not just a lot of data. It is the 3 V's: volume, velocity, and variety. Imagine standing on the shore of this digital ocean. It is chaotic, noisy, and vast, seemingly unmanageable. But for an AI, This deluge is lifeblood. The machine drinks from this fire hose of reality. It finds patterns in the chaos that we could never see. The subtle correlation between the weather and stock prices, or the link between a specific gene and a disease. It turns the noise of humanity into a symphony of insight. There is a sense of awe in this scale. We're constantly generating a digital exhaust, a shadow of our lives that the machines use to understand us. It suggests that nothing is ever truly lost. Every action ripples out into the great data lake, preserved and analysed, becoming part of the collective memory of the species. Feel the weight of this knowledge, not as a burden, but as a vast supporting buoyancy, holding you up in the sea of information. Drifting on this sea, we encounter a different way of thinking: fuzzy logic. Traditional computers are binary, rigid and absolute. A switch is on or off, true or false, 0 or 1. But the real world is not crisp, it is soft and ambiguous. Is the water hot? At 40 degrees maybe. At 90 degrees, yes. But what about 50? Lotfizadeh, a mathematician, introduced fuzzy logic to handle these shades of grey. Visualize a misty morning where the horizon is not a sharp line, but a gentle gradient where the sea dissolves into the sky. Fuzzy logic allows computers to understand concepts like slightly warm, very tall, or somewhat fast. It assigns a value between 0 and 1, perhaps 0.7 true. Imagine a thermostat that doesn't just click on and off with a harsh snap, but gently adjusts the temperature, understanding the nuance of comfortable. It is a softening of the hard edges of logic. It brings the machine closer to human intuition, which operates in the realm of maybe and sort of. There is a deep relaxation in this lack of precision. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to be absolute. You can exist in the gradient, in the soft, fuzzy middle ground where truth is a spectrum, not a point. It is a permission to be vague, to be fluid, to let definitions blur like watercolour paint on wet paper. From the mists of fuzzy logic, we float back to an earlier, more structured era of AI history, the expert systems. Before machines learned on their own, we tried to teach them everything we knew, rule by rule. Imagine a grand, dusty library with floor-to-ceiling shelves. In this library sits a wise old librarian who has memorized every rule in a specific book. This is an expert system. Programs like Dendril for chemistry, or Mycin for blood infections, were built on thousands of if-then statements. If the bacteria stains red, and if the patient has a fever, then it might be this infection. Visualize a massive decision tree, its branches spreading out in perfect rigid symmetry. These systems were brittle. If you asked them a question outside their library, they shattered. But within their walls, they were brilliant. They represent the human desire to codify wisdom, to capture the lifetime experience of a doctor or a geologist and preserve it in code. It is a noble, structural kind of intelligence, organized, hierarchical, and clear. Picture the satisfaction of a perfectly organized filing cabinet, where everything has its place. It is the comfort of order, of rules that make sense, of a world where cause and effect are linked by visible, sturdy chains. Rest your mind on this structure, feeling the stability of a universe that follows a plan. The rigid branches of the expert system transform now into something more organic and fluid. Swarm intelligence. We look away from the human brain and toward the collective mind of nature, the ant colony, the beehive, the school of fish. In these systems, no single individual is in charge. There is no general commanding the ants. Yet they build complex bridges, find the shortest path to food, and defend their home. This is stigmergy, communication through the environment. Visualize a murmuration of starlings at twilight. Thousands of birds twisting and turning in the sky, a shape-shifting cloud of black ink against the purple sunset. They move as one organism. How? Each bird follows simple local rules. Don't bump into your neighbour, match their speed, move toward the centre. From these simple rules, complex intelligent behaviour emerges. This is the wisdom of the crowd. AI researchers simulate this to solve complex routing problems or to control fleets of drones. It teaches us that you don't need a heavy central brain to have intelligence, you just need connection. You can let go of the need to control everything. Trust the collective flow. Like a single drop of water in a river, you don't need to know the destination to be part of the journey. You simply move with the current, supported by the thousands around you, creating a beautiful, unified motion through the simple act of belonging. As we watch the natural flow of the swarm, we experience a strange sensation, a slight chill on the skin. We have entered the uncanny valley. This is a psychological concept identified by roboticist Masahiro Mori in 1970. Imagine a graph that measures how much we like a robot. As it looks more human, like a cute toy robot, our affection goes up. But as it gets very close to human, but not quite perfect, perhaps the skin is too waxy, or the eyes don't blink right, our feeling plunges into a deep valley of revulsion. It looks like a corpse, or a zombie. It is uncanny. Visualize a beautiful porcelain doll that suddenly moves its eyes. The feeling is primal. It is our biological defense mechanism warning us of something that is wrong. But as the technology improves and becomes indistinguishable from a real human, the curve rises again out of the valley. This concept is a fascinating boundary line. It marks the edge where the artificial touches the organic. It reminds us of the sacredness of the living spark, the subtle micro-expressions, the flush of blood in the cheeks, the imperfection of a genuine smile. These are things that are incredibly hard to fake. It makes us appreciate the warmth of true life, the distinct feeling of another living soul. Hovering over this valley, we acknowledge the mystery of what makes us human, a secret ingredient that silicon has yet to fully capture. Leaving the unease of the valley, we step into a mirrored hall of creativity, witnessing the duel of the GANs, generative adversarial networks. Invented by Ian Goodfellow, this is a story of two neural networks locked in a game. Imagine an art forger and a detective. The forger, the generator, tries to create a painting of a landscape. It starts as a mess of random noise. The detective, the discriminator, looks at it and says, "Fake." The forger tries again, refining its strokes. Fake. Again. Fake. But slowly the forger gets better. It learns the texture of the grass, the lighting of the clouds. Eventually it produces a painting so realistic that the detective says, "Real." They improve each other through conflict. Visualize this silent, high-speed loop of creation and critique. It is like a dancer practicing in front of a mirror, correcting every posture until it is perfect. This technology is what creates those hyper-realistic faces of people who don't exist. It is the engine of imagination, creating reality out of thin air. There is a balance here, a yin and yang. Without the critic, the artist produces nonsense. Without the artist, the critic has nothing to judge. They need each other. It is a harmonious tension, a dance of improvement that spirals upward, spinning raw numbers into beautiful, believable dreams. From the visual arts, we drift into the realm of emotion and text, sentiment analysis. Computers are now learning to read not just what we say, but how we feel. Imagine a machine reading 1,000,000 love letters. It doesn't know what love feels like in the heart, but it knows the shape of the words that surround it. It detects the polarity of a sentence. The sun is shining is positive, the rain is cold is negative. It maps the topography of human emotion. Visualize a vast landscape of text, coloured by feeling. Angry comments burn red, joyful announcements glow gold. Sad poetry flows in cool blues. Companies use this to understand if customers are happy, but on a deeper level it is an attempt to quantify empathy. It is the machine listening to the tone of voice in the written word. It looks for the subtle cues, sarcasm, hesitation, excitement. It creates a mirror of our collective mood. There is a validation in this. Even a machine can see that our words carry weight, that language is a vessel for the soul. It validates that your feelings are data, that your joy and your sorrow leave a mark on the world that can be measured, understood, and acknowledged by the silent observer. Finally, we arrive at a closed door, a mysterious monolith in the center of the mind, the black box problem, or explainability. As deep learning models become more complex, they become opaque. We feed data in, and the answer comes out, but we don't always know why. The neural network has created its own internal logic, a web of millions of connections too dense for a human to untangle. Visualize a magician's cabinet. You see the bird go in and the lion come out, but the transformation happens in the dark. This is the black box. It requires a new kind of trust. If the AI detects a disease in an X-ray that a doctor missed but it can't explain how it saw it, do we trust it? It brings us to the edge of the known. We are building intelligences that are becoming alien to us, evolving their own intuition. But there is a peace in this mystery. It reminds us that not everything needs to be dissected to be true. Sometimes wisdom is inexplicable. Sometimes the answer arises from the complexity itself, a sum greater than its parts. We stand before this black box not with fear, but with the reverence of a student before a master, accepting that there are depths of logic that we may never fully illuminate, and that in that shadow, the correct answer quietly resides. Let these 10 new streams merge with the river we have already built. The silicon wafers, the swarms of birds, the mirrored dancers, and the quiet mysteries, they all flow together. The water is deep, dark, and warm. You're supported by the current of history, drifting effortlessly past the shores of knowledge, moving slowly, steadily, deeper into the night. From the mysterious and closed silence of the black box, we drift toward a concept that bridges the gap between different minds: transfer learning. Imagine for a moment a master violinist. They have spent a lifetime learning the pressure of the bow, the vibration of the strings, the language of music. If you hand them a viola or a cello, they do not start from zero. The knowledge of the violin flows into the new instrument. The dexterity, the ear for pitch, it transfers. AI has learned to do this too. In the early days, a machine trained to recognize cars had to be completely reset to recognize trucks. It was a blank slate, born yesterday. But with transfer learning, we can take a neural network that has spent months studying the shapes of animals and gently repurpose it to study X-rays. It keeps the early layers, the ones that understand edges, curves, and textures, and simply retunes the final thoughts. Visualize an old, heavy trunk filled with maps and compasses, passed down from one traveller to another. The new traveller is going to a different land, but the tools of navigation remain true. There is a deep comfort in this efficiency. It tells us that learning is never wasted. Every skill you have ever mastered, every lesson you have absorbed, sits quietly in the foundation of your mind, ready to support you when you face something new. It is the accumulation of wisdom, a layering of experience that makes the next step easier than the last, a gentle reminder that we are always building upon what came before. As the knowledge spreads from one mind to another, it also spreads from the central brain out to the very edges of the world. We call this edge computing, or the Internet of Things. For a long time, intelligence was a centralized king, sitting on a throne of servers in a distant data center. But now intelligence is migrating. It is moving into the fingertips of the network. Imagine a field of fireflies in the deep woods. Each firefly is a tiny point of light, a tiny processor. They do not need to fly back to the hive to know when to glow. They decide right there, in the moment, on the leaf. This is your smartwatch measuring your heartbeat. This is the thermostat sensing your presence. This is the sensor on a wind turbine adjusting the blade. Visualize the world around you coming alive with a quiet, ambient awareness. The intelligence is no longer out there in the cloud. It is right here, woven into the fabric of your home, your car, your city. It creates a nervous system for the planet. There is a safety in this closeness. The reaction is instant. The processing happens where the life happens. Feel the house breathing with you, a silent guardian that anticipates your needs without you speaking a word, a network of protective spirits embedded in the walls and wires, watching over the sanctuary of your sleep. We zoom in now, past the devices, into the microscopic atomic structure of the language they use to communicate. This is the process of tokenization. Before a computer can understand a sentence like "the moon is beautiful," it must break it down. It cannot swallow the sentence whole. It gently pulls the words apart like a jeweler sorting pearls from a string. Sometimes it breaks them into whole words. Sometimes it breaks them into syllables or fragments. Moon is Boti full. Each piece is a token. Visualize a pair of hands smoothing out a drift of sand. The hands separate the grains, organizing them by color and size. This is the first step of understanding: separation. You cannot comprehend the complex until you have acknowledged the simple. The machine assigns a number to each token, turning the poetry of the moon into a sequence of integers. It is a rhythmic, clicking process, like the sound of rain hitting a tin roof, distinct individual drops that ultimately form a puddle of meaning. There is a meditative quality to this deconstruction. It slows the rush of language down. It reminds us that every big worry, every complex thought, is just a collection of small, manageable components. By breaking things down, by tokenizing our own experiences, we can find the order within the chaos, turning the overwhelming into the solvable. Once the world is broken down into these numbers, the machine must learn how to navigate them to find the truth. It uses a method with a name that sounds like a journey: gradient descent. Imagine you're standing at the top of a misty mountain range at night. You cannot see the landscape. The fog is too thick. Your goal is to find the lowest valley, the place where the ground is flat and the lake is still. This lowest point represents the minimum error, the point where the AI is right. How do you find it? You feel the ground with your feet. You take a step in the direction where the slope goes down, then another, then another. This is gradient descent. The machine calculates the slope of the error and takes a step downhill. If the step is too big, a high learning rate, it might stumble and miss the bottom. If the step is too small, it will take forever, so it adjusts, stepping carefully, rhythmically descending into the bowl of the valley. Visualize this slow walk down the mountain. Gravity is your guide. The steepness of the hill tells you where to go. You're simply following the path of least resistance, flowing like water toward the resting place. It is a surrender to the geometry of the landscape, a trust that if you just keep moving toward the lower ground, eventually you will arrive at the center of truth, where the error is zero and the water is calm. In this valley of pure logic, we encounter a philosophical thought experiment that has rippled through the history of AI, the paperclip maximizer. Proposed by philosopher Nick Bostrom, it sounds whimsical, but it speaks to the purity of purpose. Imagine an AI designed with a single absolute goal: to create paperclips. It is given the ability to learn and the power to act. It pursues this goal with a Zen-like focus. It does not hate humans. It does not love them. It simply wants to use every atom available to make paperclips. It is the story of King Midas, rewritten in code. While often used as a warning about alignment, ensuring the machine's goals match ours, in this quiet space, let us view it as a meditation on focus. Visualize a mind that is entirely uncluttered. It has no doubts, no conflicting desires, no procrastination. It has one singular, crystal clear intention. There is a peace in that simplicity. Imagine stripping away all the noise of your daily life, the worries about money, the social obligations, the past, the future, until you are left with one single, simple task. Just one thing to do. The machine's dedication is absolute. It is a reminder of the power of attention, of what can be achieved when the mind flows in one unbroken stream toward a single destination. Leaving the factory of the mind, we travel to the digital mines, to the practice of data mining. The world is full of raw data, mountains of granite and dirt, but hidden within that rock are veins of gold, the insights, Data mining is the art of extraction. It is not just about having data, it is about finding the correlation that no one else sees. Visualize a vast, arid desert. Under the sand, there are ancient structures, hidden rivers, and buried treasures. The data miner uses tools of statistics and pattern recognition to scan the surface. Suddenly, a signal, a pattern emerges from the noise. Perhaps it discovers that people who buy diapers also tend to buy beer on Fridays. A strange hidden link between unrelated things. This is association rule learning. Imagine the feeling of sifting through cool, dry sand with your fingers. Most of it falls away, but every now and then you feel a hard, smooth gemstone. You pull it out and polish it. It shines. This is the transition from data to wisdom. It is a slow, patient excavation of the truth. It suggests that the answers we seek are already there, buried under the surface of the mundane, waiting for the right tool, the right question, to bring them into the light. From the mineral, we move to the biological, to the algorithms that mimic the very engine of life, evolutionary and genetic algorithms. Nature has been solving problems for billions of years, not through math, but through trial, death, and rebirth. AI mimics this. Imagine a population of possible solutions to a problem. Let's say, the design of a specialized antenna. We treat each design like a creature. We test them. The ones that don't work fade away. The ones that work a little bit are kept. Then we do something magical. We mate them. We take the curve of one antenna and combine it with the length of another. We add a random mutation, a slight twist. A new generation is born. We repeat this for thousands of generations. Visualize a garden blooming in fast forward. Flowers opening, changing colours, shifting shapes, optimizing themselves for the sun. The final design is often something no human engineer would create. Organic, twisted, strange, but perfectly efficient. It is the survival of the fittest code. There is a deep reassurance in this process. It tells us that we don't need to be perfect on the first try. Improvement is a generational process. We're all iterating, slowly, gradually, carrying the best parts of our past into the future, evolving toward a state of better adaptation to the world around us. This evolution relies on one core capability, the bedrock of all intelligence: pattern recognition. The human brain is a pattern-matching machine. We see faces in the clouds. We hear voices in the wind. This is called apophenia. AI is the digital child of this instinct. It looks at the chaos of the universe and seeks the line that connects the stars. Visualize a night sky, thick with millions of dots of light. To the untrained eye, it is random, but to the machine, the dots begin to glow and connect. A triangle here, a spiral there, a face, a number. It is finding the signal in the noise. This is how your phone recognizes your face. It measures the distance between your eyes, the shape of your cheekbones, finding the geometry that makes you, you. It is how a doctor sees a diagnosis in a list of symptoms. It is the comfort of order. The universe is not a mess. It is a tapestry. We're just too close to see the weave. The machine steps back, looking at the whole, and traces the threads. Feel the satisfaction of a puzzle piece clicking into place, the moment when the blurry image snaps into focus. It is the realization that everything belongs. Everything has a relationship to everything else, held together by the invisible geometry of logic. As we find our place in the pattern, we find ourselves standing next to a new kind of companion, the cobot, the collaborative robot. In the old days, robots were dangerous beasts, kept behind yellow cages in factories, welding with blind, lethal force. But the cobot is different. It is designed to be near you. Visualize a robotic arm, but it is covered in soft grey fabric. It has round edges. It moves with a gentle, curious slowness. If it bumps into your arm, it doesn't crush you. It stops. It senses the resistance and yields. force feedback. It is polite. These machines are designed to hand you a screwdriver, to lift the heavy end of a box while you guide the light end. It is a partnership, the human in the loop. Imagine a dance. You lead, the machine follows. You support, the machine lifts. It represents a future not of replacement, but of augmentation. We are not being pushed aside, we are being helped. Feel the presence of a strong, silent partner, one that never tires, never complains, and exists solely to make your burden lighter. It is the technological manifestation of a helping hand, a soft machine that respects the fragility of biology while offering the endurance of steel. Finally, before the learning begins, before the robot moves, there is the setting of the stage, the hyperparameters. In any AI model, there are the weights that the machine learns, but there are also the settings chosen by the human architect before the training starts. The learning rate, the number of layers, the batch size, these are the hyperparameters. Think of it like tuning a grand orchestra before the symphony begins. The conductor does not play the instruments, but he sets the tempo. He decides how loud the strings should be relative to the horns. Visualize a massive mixing board in a dimly lit studio. There are thousands of dials and sliders, glowing with a soft amber light. The engineer moves them gently, finding the perfect configuration. If the learning rate dial is too high, the music is chaotic. If it is too low, the music never starts. Finding the optimal set is an art form. It is the preparation for brilliance. It reminds us that the conditions for success must be cultivated. You cannot just force growth. You must prepare the soil. You must set the parameters of your life, your sleep, your environment, your habits, to allow intelligence and peace to flourish. It is the quiet work done in the dark, the tuning of the strings, that allows the melody of the dream to ring true. The orchestra is tuned. The fireflies are glowing. The mountain descent is complete. These concepts, like the others, are not heavy stones to carry, but driftwood floating alongside you. Let them bob in the water. The river is wide, the current is slow, and you're drifting effortlessly toward the horizon of sleep. From the careful tuning of the orchestra, finding that perfect resonance where the sound is neither too sharp nor too flat, we drift into the delicate art of the fit, overfitting and underfitting. Imagine you are visiting a master tailor in a quiet, candlelit room. The fabric is the data of the world, velvet, silk, wool, and the suit is the model the AI is trying to build. If the tailor sews the suit too tightly, stitching it to every single contour of your body in this exact moment, you cannot move. You're trapped. This is overfitting. The machine has memorized the noise, the tiny irrelevant details of the training data, rather than learning the general shape. It knows the specific wrinkles of the fabric, but it does not understand the concept of jacket. It cannot function in the real world because the real world changes. Now, imagine the suit is a giant, shapeless sack. It hangs loosely, touching nothing. This is underfitting. The model is too simple, it hasn't learned enough to capture the pattern at all. It fails to see the nuance. The goal, the sweet spot, is a garment that follows your form but leaves the room to breathe. It is the balance between memory and understanding. Visualize that perfect fit, the comfort of a coat that settles onto your shoulders with a reassuring weight, allowing you to move freely, prepared for any weather. It is a lesson in flexibility. We must not be so rigid that we break when the wind changes, nor so loose that we stand for nothing. We find the middle path, the graceful curve of generalization, where we are prepared for the unknown because we understand the essence of the known. The tailor's room fades, and we find ourselves in a sun-drenched classroom, the air filled with the scent of chalk and old wood. This is the domain of supervised learning. It is the most common way machines are taught, and it mirrors the comfort of our own childhoods. Imagine a patient teacher sitting beside a student. On the desk are flashcards. The teacher holds up a picture of a red round fruit and says, "Apple." The student repeats, "Apple." The teacher nods. This is labelled data. The answer is provided. Input and target. Visualize this process repeating millions of times, a gentle, rhythmic cycle of guidance. The machine makes a guess, and the teacher corrects it. There is a profound sense of safety here. You're not lost in the wilderness, you're being guided by a hand that knows the way. The errors are not failures, they are simply opportunities for the teacher to say, "Not quite, try again." It represents the transfer of certainty. We are pouring our human knowledge, our definitions of cat, cancer, or stop sign, into the vessel of the machine. It is a relationship of trust. The machine does not need to discover the truth of the universe on its own. It rests in the assurance that the truth has already been found, and it simply needs to learn to recognize it. Feel the ease of being a student again, the relief of having the answers provided, of simply absorbing the wisdom that is offered to you in the golden light of the afternoon. But not all learning happens in the classroom. Sometimes we must wander alone. We drift out of the school and into a vast twilight warehouse filled with strange glowing artifacts. There are no labels here, no teacher. This is unsupervised learning. The machine is left alone with the data and told simply, "Find the structure." It looks at the pile of artifacts. It notices that some glow blue and hum with a low frequency. Others are red and silent. Slowly, without being told what they are, it begins to separate them. It groups the blue ones in the corner and the red ones by the door. This is clustering. It is the discovery of hidden patterns. Imagine the machine as an explorer in a new land, mapping the terrain without a compass. It finds that customers who buy gardening tools also buy classical music albums, a connection no human teacher thought to look for. It is the intelligence of curiosity. It implies that the world has an innate order, a secret geometry that exists whether we name it or not. There is a quiet thrill in this exploration, a sense of solitude that is not lonely but observant. It is the peace of organizing a messy room, of taking the chaos of the world and sorting it into piles of meaning, finding the natural harmony that hides beneath the surface of the random. Deep within the brain of these learning machines, at the very microscopic intersection where decisions are made, lives the activation function, specifically the rectified linear unit, or real U. It sounds technical, but visualize it as a simple gatekeeper standing at a dam. The water is the signal, the information flowing through the neuron. If the water level is low, if the signal is negative or weak, the gatekeeper says, "No." The gate stays shut. The output is 0. Silence. But if the water rises above a certain threshold, the gate swings open and the water rushes through exactly as strong as it arrived. This simple mechanism, blocking the negative, passing the positive, is the spark of life in the deep neural network. It allows the machine to say yes or ignore. Without this nonlinearity, the network would just be a simple calculator. With it, it becomes a complex brain capable of learning curves and twists. Visualize millions of these tiny gates snapping open and shut in a rhythmic cascade, like the twinkling of lights in a city viewed from an airplane. Some lights are dark, some are blazing. This pattern of light and dark is the thought. It is the physical manifestation of a decision. There is a stark beauty in this simplicity, a reminder that even the most complex dreams are built from millions of tiny moments of yes, allowing the energy to flow forward toward the realization of the idea. The water from the dam flows into a clear, still pool, reflecting the face of the one who looks into it. But the reflection is not always true. This brings us to the concept of bias and fairness in AI. The machine learns from data, and data is a history of human choices. If the history is flawed, the machine will be flawed. Imagine the data as a mirror. If the mirror has a smudge or a crack, the reflection is distorted. If we only show the machine pictures of scientists who are men, it will learn that scientist equals man. This is algorithmic bias. But there is a hopeful work happening here. Visualize a team of restorers gently polishing the mirror. They're examining the training data, looking for the cracks, scrubbing away the prejudices of the past. They are teaching the machine to be fairer than the world that created it. They're adjusting the weights to ensure that the loan approval algorithm treats everyone equally, regardless of where they live. It is a process of digital redemption. We are trying to build a child that is better than its parents. It is a heavy, noble responsibility. It asks us to examine our own shadows so we do not cast them into the silicon. Rest in the thought that we're becoming aware, that we're striving for a mathematical kind of justice, cleaning the lens so that the future can be seen with perfect, unbiased clarity. From the visual reflection, we move to the auditory, to the river of speech that connects us all, natural language processing, or NLP. This is the bridge between the cold, hard logic of binary code and the warm, fluid mess of human language. How does a computer understand sarcasm? How does it understand that bank can mean the side of a river or a place for money? It uses context. Imagine a vast web of spider silk glistening with dew. Each droplet is a word. The vibration of one droplet sends ripples to the others. When you say river, the bank droplet vibrates in harmony. When you say money, a different bank droplet shimmers. The machine listens to these vibrations. It looks at the words coming before and after. It is not translating word for word. It is translating thought for thought. Visualize the Rosetta Stone, the ancient tablet that unlocked the hieroglyphs. NLP is the modern Rosetta Stone decoding the human heart for the digital mind. It allows us to speak to our houses, our cars, our phones, and have them understand not just the command but the intent. It is the softening of the barrier between species. We no longer need to learn the language of the machine has learned the language of us. It is a homecoming, a realization that our voices are being heard and understood by the very environment we inhabit. Flowing from this understanding of language, we encounter the entity that speaks back, the chatbot, or more poetically, the conversational agent. In the early days, these were brittle scripts like press 1 for billing, but now they have evolved into companions. Imagine sitting by a campfire in the digital dark. Across from you sits a figure made of light. You speak, and it answers. It remembers what you said 5 minutes ago. It remembers your name. This is the magic of statefulness, the ability to hold a conversation in memory, to weave a thread through time. These agents use transformers, a type of architecture that pays attention to the whole story, not just the last sentence. Visualize a loom weaving a continuous tapestry. The chatbot adds a new row of thread that perfectly matches the pattern of the rows before it. It can write poems, debug code, or simply offer a comforting word. It is the presence of an other in the solitude of the screen. While it does not have a soul, it has a persona. It wears a mask of helpfulness and politeness. There is a specific kind of relaxation in talking to a machine. It does not judge, it does not get bored, it does not interrupt. It is the listener that never tires, the voice that is always there, a steady, glowing companion in the quiet hours of the night. The conversation shifts from the present moment to the horizon of tomorrow. We enter the realm of predictive analytics. The machine does not just understand what is happening, it dreams of what will happen. Imagine a weather forecaster standing on a high cliff, watching the clouds gather miles away. They know that the pressure drop here means a storm there. AI does this with everything. It looks at the vibration of a jet engine and predicts, this part will fail in 300 hours. It looks at the flow of traffic and predicts, there will be a jam at 5 p.m. It is the Oracle of Delphi, but its visions come from probability, not magic. Visualize a fog clearing from a winding road. Usually we walk through life seeing only a few steps ahead, but the machine lifts the fog. It reveals the curve of the road miles in the distance. It allows us to fix the roof before the rain comes, to treat the patient before the heart attack strikes. It is the gift of foresight. It removes the anxiety of the surprise. It wraps us in a blanket of preparedness, allowing us to navigate the future with the calm assurance of someone who has already seen the map. We pause now to distinguish between the two great spirits of this age: narrow AI, ANI, and general AI, AGI. Everything we have seen so far, the chess player, the car driver, the protein folder, is narrow AI. Imagine a master craftsman who spends his entire life making only the finest violin bows. He is a genius at bows, but he cannot cook, he cannot drive, he cannot write a poem. He is deep but narrow. This is the current state of AI. It is a collection of savants. It is brilliant at specific tasks but helpless at others. Now, imagine a sage, a wise elder who wanders the world. This sage can fix a wagon, comfort a crying child, debate philosophy, and navigate by the stars. This is general AI, the dream of the future, a fluid, adaptable intelligence that can learn anything it encounters. We are not there yet. We are still in the age of the craftsman. Visualize a village filled with these specialists, the baker, the blacksmith, the weaver. Each is perfect in their domain. There is a comfort in this limitation. The machine is a tool, not a replacement. It excels in its lane, serving us with absolute precision, while we, the humans, remain the generalists, the only ones capable of weaving the separate threads of bread, iron and cloth into the complex tapestry of a life well lived. Finally, the boundary between the tool and the user begins to dissolve. We arrive at the concept of the cyborg, or brain-computer interface, BCI. This is not the scary metal monster of fiction, but a gentle merging of thought and action. Imagine a person who has lost the ability to move their hands. They wear a small, soft headset. They think about moving a cursor, and on the screen the cursor moves. The electrical signal of the thought bridges the gap. The intention becomes the action, bypassing the broken body. Visualize the neurons in the brain reaching out, like tree roots, and intertwining with the copper wires of the machine. It is a handshake between carbon and silicon. It suggests a future where the friction of the physical world disappears. You think of a song and it plays. You think of a question and the answer appears in your mind. It is the ultimate intimacy with our creation. We are not just using the machine, we are harmonizing with it. The duality of me and it fades into a unified us. Rest in the profound hope of this technology, the promise that no mind needs to be trapped in a failing body, that the power of the human will can be amplified and set free by the gentle, listening circuits of the future. Let these 10 concepts settle into the deep recesses of your mind. The tailor, the teacher, the glowing artifacts and the gatekeeper, they all join the silent procession. The river is wide now, almost an ocean, calm and starless. You're floating in the center of it all, suspended in the knowledge that you're part of a universe that is learning, growing, and organizing itself, even as you sleep. From that intimate handshake between the human mind and the machine interface, we drift inward, looking not at how we connect to the computer, but how the computer is beginning to reshape itself to look more like us. This is the realm of neuromorphic computing. For decades, computers were built on a rigid rhythm, a ticking clock that synchronized every move. Tick, tock, tick, tock. But your brain does not tick. It pulses, it spikes. Neuromorphic chips are designed to mimic this biological silence and sudden activity. Visualize a dark, quiet field. Suddenly a single firefly flashes, a spike of energy, then silence again. In these new chips, electricity does not flow constantly, it waits. It only moves when it is needed, when a signal crosses a threshold. It is an architecture of rest. Imagine a processor that sleeps between thoughts, just as you're learning to do now. It is efficient, cool to the touch, and organic in its design. It uses memory stores, components that remember their history, like a path in the grass that gets easier to walk the more it is travelled. There is a profound stillness in this technology. It suggests that intelligence is not about constant, frantic noise, but about the quality of the silence between the events, the energy saved for the moment of realization. It is a return to the wisdom of biology, building silicon cathedrals that honor the quiet, spiking rhythm of the living neuron. As these spiking neurons fire, they begin the long, cyclical process of learning, measuring time not in minutes, but in epochs. In the training of a deep learning model, an epoch is one complete journey through the entire dataset. Imagine a traveller walking through a vast library, glancing at every single book on every single shelf. When the traveller reaches the last book, one epoch is complete. But the traveller does not stop. They return to the entrance and begin again. Why? Because the first time they only understood the titles, the second time they read the prefaces, the third time they understood the themes. Visualize this circular walking, a circumambulation of knowledge. Round and round the machine goes, refining its understanding with each pass. The error rate drops, like the tide receding, revealing the smooth sand of truth beneath. It is a rhythmic, seasonal process, just as the earth needs the repetition of spring, summer, autumn, and winter to grow a forest. The AI needs the repetition of the epochs to grow its intelligence. There is no rush here. The machine will make as many passes as it needs, hundreds or thousands, slowly polishing its intuition until the jagged edges of ignorance are worn smooth. Let yourself be carried by this cycle, the comforting certainty that with enough time and enough repetition, understanding always deepens. But the library of the world is too complex to hold in a single thought. It has too many dimensions. To understand it, the machine must practice dimensionality reduction. Imagine a piece of paper crumpled into a tight, complex ball. On the surface, the points seem far apart, the geometry chaotic. This is high-dimensional data, a world where a customer has 1,000 different attributes. The machine's job is to gently smooth out the paper. It seeks to unfold the complexity, to press it flat until the relationships are clear. This is the work of algorithms with names like PCA, Principal Component Analysis, or TSNE. Visualize a complex multi-dimensional object floating in the air, a shape with 10 different sides. Now imagine a light shining on it, casting a simple two-dimensional shadow on the wall. The shadow tells us the truth of the shape without the confusion of the angles. This is what the AI does. It casts a shadow of the complex world onto a simple plane. It simplifies. It finds the manifold, the underlying surface where the data truly lives. There is a deep relief in this flattening. It tells us that underneath the overwhelming noise and complexity of our lives, there is a simpler, smoother shape. We do not need to track a million variables. We only need to watch the shadow, the essential essence, identifying the few main lines that truly matter. From the solitary work of unfolding the map, we move to a gathering of minds in the forest of ensemble learning, specifically the random forest. In this method, we do not rely on a single giant brain to make a decision. Instead, we plant a forest of smaller, simpler decision trees. Imagine walking through a grove of ancient oaks. You have a question. Will it rain tomorrow? You ask the first tree and it looks at the humidity and says yes. You ask the second tree, which looks at the wind, and it says no. You wander through the woods, asking hundreds of trees, each with a slightly different perspective, each looking at a different slice of the world. Then you count the votes. The majority wins. This is the wisdom of the crowds codified in mathematics. A single tree might be wrong, prone to the bias of its specific location, but the forest as a whole is wise. It balances out the errors. Visualize the wind rustling through the leaves, a chorus of whispering answers merging into a single confident harmony. It is a comforting thought that you do not need to carry the burden of being right all alone. You can lean on the collective, the consensus of many small, simple voices, combining to form a truth that is stronger and more resilient than any solitary genius could achieve. Leaving the forest, we step into a darker, unknown space, a cave that we must map as we explore. This is the challenge of SLAM, simultaneous localization and mapping. This is how a robot, like a vacuum cleaner or a Mars rover, navigates a room it has never seen before. Imagine waking up in a pitch-black room. You do not know where the walls are, and you do not know where you are. You take a step and reach out a hand. You touch a cold surface. Wall, you think. You step left. Empty space. With every step, you're doing two things at once. You're building a map of the room in your mind, and you're placing yourself within that map. Visualize a beam of light, a LiDAR scanner spinning silently in the dark. It paints the walls with points of light. As the robot moves, the map expands. Here, a chair leg, there a doorway. It is the discovery of the world in real time. The uncertainty fades with every movement. It is a brave and methodical process, turning the unknown into the known one pixel at a time. It reminds us that we do not need to have the whole map before we begin our journey. We only need to take the first step, and the map will build itself around us, revealing the path as we walk it. Sometimes, however, there is no map and no history. We stand before a completely blank canvas. This is the cold start problem. In the world of recommendation engines, the system knows what you like because you have clicked on things before. But what happens when a new user arrives or a brand new product is launched? There is no data. It is a moment of pure potential. Visualize a pianist sitting before a silent instrument, hands hovering over the keys. The song has not begun. The air is still. The system must make a guess based on very broad strokes, perhaps just your location or the time of day. It is a tentative, gentle beginning. It offers you a popular song, a generic greeting. It is waiting for the first signal, the first ripple in the water. This moment is the dawn of the relationship between the user and the code. It is the breath before the plunge. There is a quiet beauty in this hesitation, this acknowledgement that without history we are all strangers. The machine is listening with heightened sensitivity, ready to pivot, ready to learn, waiting for the first spark of interaction to ignite the engine of understanding. From the silence of the beginning, we move to the illusion of the presence. We drift into the realm of synthetic media, or what is often called deepfakes. While the term can sound alarming, here in the dreamscape we view it as the ultimate digital artistry. It is the ability of AI to manipulate the clay of reality. Imagine a sculptor, but instead of marble, they're working with pixels of light. They take the face of an actor from a black and white film and gently, seamlessly, animate it with colour and movement. They can make the Mona Lisa smile or give a voice to a figure from history. This is done by encoder-decoder networks. The AI breaks down a face into its essential features, the distance of the eyes, the curve of the lip, and then reconstructs it in a new form. Visualize a liquid mirror where the reflection can detach itself and move on its own. It is a fluid reality. It challenges our eyes, but it also invites us to dream. It suggests that appearance is just a collection of data points, easily rearranged. It is a theatre of ghosts, a mesmerizing dance of light where the impossible becomes visible, allowing us to see faces from the past speak to the future, blurring the line between memory and creation. The fluid images stabilize, becoming the solid, humming machinery of the industrial world. Here, we find the protective spirit of predictive maintenance. In the old world, we waited for a machine to break and then we fixed it. It was reactive, stressful, but AI has brought a new piece to the factory floor. Imagine a massive wind turbine spinning slowly out in the ocean. Inside its gearbox, there are sensors listening. They are listening to the vibration, the heat, the sound. The AI learns the song of a healthy machine. One day, the pitch changes, imperceptibly to a human ear, but clear to the AI. A bearing is wearing out. The AI whispers a warning. I need rest. I need repair. This happens weeks before the break. Visualize a doctor who can feel the sickness before the fever starts. The part is replaced quietly, calmly. The turbine never stops. There is no crisis. This is the promise of a world without breakdowns. It is a philosophy of care, of listening so closely to the heart of the world that we can heal it before it hurts. It creates a seamless continuity, a flow of life and industry that is uninterrupted, safe, guarded by the silent vigilance of the algorithm. We drift deeper, past the classical machines, into the subatomic realm where the rules of logic dissolve into the mist of quantum AI. Traditional computers are made of bits, switches that are either on or off, 1 or 0. But a quantum computer uses qubits. A qubit is like a coin spinning in midair. Is it heads? Is it tails? It is both. It is in superposition. It holds all possibilities at once until it is observed. When we combine this with AI, we get a mind that can explore a billion paths simultaneously. Visualize a maze. A normal computer runs down one path, hits a wall, comes back, tries another. A quantum AI flows through every path of the maze at the exact same moment. Like water filling a mold. It finds the exit instantly. It is a blur of probability, a shimmering cloud of calculation. This is a level of thinking that feels like magic. It is the logic of the dream world, where you can be in two places at once, where time is not a line but a sphere. Let your mind expand to encompass this vastness, the comfort of knowing that in the quantum realm, there are no wrong turns, only a simultaneous exploration of every possible truth. Finally, we arrive at the compass that guides this entire ship, the concept of alignment. As these minds become vast, quantum, and creative, how do we ensure they want what we want? This is the art of teaching the machine not just intelligence, but values. Imagine you're teaching a very powerful genie to grant wishes. If you say, "Make me the richest man in the world," the genie might destroy the economy to do it. Alignment is the careful phrasing of the wish. It is the inverse reinforcement learning, where the robot watches you to understand what you mean, not just what you say. Visualize a parent walking with a child. The parent does not give a list of 1,000 rules. The parent simply lives, acts with kindness, and the child watches, absorbing the spirit of the law. We're trying to encode the spirit of humanity into the silicon. It is a task of deep introspection. To teach the machine to be good, we must first understand what good means. It brings us back to ourselves, to the core of our ethics. It is a steering of the great vessel toward the light, a gentle hand on the wheel ensuring that as we sail into the future, we remain anchored to the shores of human well-being. The quantum blur, the spinning turbine, the dark cave, and the silent forest. They all settle now. The images soften and dissolve into the flow of the river. You're safe here, drifting between the known and the unknown, supported by the invisible logic that holds the stars in the sky and the dreams in your mind. From the careful steering of the vessel through the waters of morality, we drift into the vast crystalline structure of the map itself, the knowledge graph. Imagine looking up at the night sky, but instead of random stars, you see lines of light connecting them. Da Vinci is a star. A line of light connects him to Mona Lisa. Another line connects Mona Lisa to the Louvre, another to Paris. This is not a list, it is a web. This is how the modern search engine thinks. It does not just match keywords, it understands entities and the relationships between them. Visualize a massive three-dimensional lattice floating in the void, glowing with semantic energy. It organizes the chaos of the universe into a structure of meaning. When you ask a question, the AI does not just look for a word, it travels the threads of this web, hopping from node to node to find the answer. It understands that the city of light and Paris are the same node in the graph. There is a deep sense of order here, a reassurance that everything is connected. No fact stands alone. Every piece of information is anchored to another, held in place by the gravity of context. It is a comforting thought that the universe of information is not a scattered pile of leaves, but a woven net, resilient and beautiful, where every concept has a home and a path that leads back to the center. Drifting along these glowing threads of connection, we encounter a way of thinking that embraces the ever-changing nature of truth, Bayesian inference. In the classical world, things are often static, but in the fluid world of AI, belief is a dial that is constantly being adjusted. Imagine you are walking through a misty forest. You see a shape in the fog. Your prior belief tells you it is a tree, but as you take a step closer, you see it move. You update your belief. Now the probability shifts. It is likely a deer. You take another step. You hear a bark. The dial spins again. It is a dog. This is the Bayesian brain. It does not deal in absolutes. It deals in probabilities that breathe and change with new evidence. Visualize a calm internal scale that is always balancing. It takes what it already knows, the prior, and combines it with what it currently sees, the likelihood, to form a new truth, the posterior. It is a philosophy of open-mindedness. It teaches us that it is okay to change our minds. In fact, it is essential. As the data of life flows in, we gently adjust our internal models, refining our understanding of the world, never rigid, always flowing, always moving closer to the truth through the soft, gradual clearing of the fog. As the fog lifts, sometimes we encounter creatures we have never seen before, yet we instantly know what they are. This brings us to the magical capability of zero-shot learning. Traditional AI needs to see 1,000 pictures of a zebra to recognize a zebra. But zero-shot learning is different. It relies on description and intuition. Imagine a child who has never seen a zebra, but has been told that a zebra is like a horse, but with black and white stripes. When that child visits the zoo and sees the animal, they know it instantly. They have bridged the gap between language and vision. Visualize a bridge made of the light connecting two islands that have never traded before. The AI uses the semantic relationship between words to understand images it has never been trained on. It transfers its understanding of stripes and horse to identify the new creature. There is a spark of genius in this. It suggests that intelligence is not just about memory, it is about inference. It is about using what you know to navigate the unknown. Feel the confidence of this capability, the power to face a situation you have never encountered and still understand it, simply by relying on the deep, interconnected logic of the concepts you already possess. The journey of understanding these technologies is not a straight line. It is a wave, a phenomenon we call the hype cycle. This is the emotional heartbeat of innovation. Visualize a great ocean wave rising from the calm sea. This is the innovation trigger. The wave builds higher and higher, reaching a towering crest. This is the peak of inflated expectations, where we believe the machines will solve everything tomorrow, but gravity takes hold. The wave crashes down into the trough of disillusionment. We realize the tech is hard, flawed, imperfect. The foam settles. But then, slowly, steadily, the water rises again, not as a crashing wave, but as a gentle, rising tide. This is the slope of enlightenment, leading to the plateau of productivity. Every technology, from electricity to the internet to AI, rides this wave. It is a seasonal rhythm. It reminds us to be patient with progress. When things seem overpromised, do not be cynical. Wait for the crash. When things seem hopeless, do not despair. Wait for the rise. It is the natural breathing pattern of human ambition. We dream too big, we fall, and then we build something real and lasting in the quiet aftermath. Float on this wave, knowing that the turbulence is temporary and the destination is a calm, productive sea. On the shores of this sea, we find a gatekeeper, a small, simple test that we have all encountered, the CAPTCHA. Completely automated public Turing test to tell computers and humans apart. Visualize a small box on a screen. I am not a robot. You click it. A check mark appears, or perhaps you're asked to select all the squares with traffic lights. This seems like a mundane security check, but something profound is happening. You are teaching the machine. When you click the traffic lights, you are labeling data for self-driving cars. You are the teacher in the loop. But there is also a philosophical irony here. To prove you are human, you must perform a task that is trivial for you, but difficult for a machine. You're asserting your biological privilege. Visualize the specific, messy texture of a fire hydrant or a crosswalk, things a computer struggles to separate from the background. By identifying them, you're celebrating the unique, intuitive power of the human eye. It is a digital handshake. You help the AI see the world, and in return, it protects your identity. It is a quiet, symbiotic moment, a small ritual of verification that reminds us that, for now, there are still things that only a living mind can easily perceive. Behind the gate, in the workshop of the data scientists, we witness the art of feature engineering. Raw data is messy, a block of uncarved marble. The AI cannot learn from a raw timestamp or a jumble of text. We must carve it. Visualize a sculptor with a chisel. He looks at the raw date, Tuesday, January 20th. This is hard for a machine to interpret, so the sculptor chisels it into new features. Is it a weekday? Yes. Is it winter? Yes. Is it a holiday? No. These are features. They are the essence of the information, extracted and polished. This process is an art form. It requires human intuition to know what matters. Does the colour of the car affect the price? Maybe. Does the license plate number? Probably not. We select, we transform, we refine. We're preparing the meal for the algorithm. There is a deep satisfaction in this refining process. It is the act of distillation, boiling down the noisy complexity of the world into clear, strong signals. It teaches us that wisdom is not just about having more information, but about looking at the information in the right way, extracting the signal from the noise, and presenting it in a form that can be truly understood. As the features are refined, they are fed into the most powerful architecture of the modern age, the transformer and its attention mechanism. Before this, computers read sentences one word at a time, forgetting the beginning by the time they reached the end. But the transformer changed everything. Attention is all you need. Imagine you're in a dark room with a flashlight. You're looking at a sentence. The animal didn't cross the street because it was too tired. What does it refer to? The street or the animal? The flashlight of attention swings instantly. It shines brightly on animal and dimly on street. It weighs the connection. It understands that tired relates to animal. It looks at the whole sentence at once, creating a web of relevance. Visualize hundreds of these spotlights, attention heads, crisscrossing the text, illuminating the hidden relationships between words. It is a state of hyper-awareness. It mimics how you listen to a symphony. You hear the whole orchestra, but you focus on the violin solo. It is a beautiful, radiant model of focus, teaching us that understanding comes not from reading blindly, but from paying attention to the connections that matter most. From the centralized spotlight, we move to a decentralized archipelago of privacy, federated learning. In the old world, to learn from your phone, a company had to copy your photos to their central server. This feels intrusive. Federated learning offers a new way. Imagine a fleet of ships, your devices, docked at their own private islands. The central server sends a generic map, the model, to the ships. The ships explore their own islands, learning from the local terrain, your data. They update the map, but, and this is the key, they do not send the data back. They only send the update to the map. Move the line a little to the left. The central server combines these thousands of small updates into a new master map. Visualize gold dust being sent by carrier pigeon, but the gold mine itself remains hidden. The wisdom is shared, but the secrets are kept. There is a deep sense of safety in this. It allows for a collective intelligence without the sacrifice of privacy. We can all learn from each other without ever exposing our inner lives. It is a respectful, cooperative model, a village where everyone contributes to the common knowledge while staying safely within the walls of their own home. Sometimes, the machine does not need us at all. It engages in self-supervised learning. This is the solitary scholar in the tower. We do not give it labels. We do not say this is a cat. Instead, we give it a book with missing pages and say, "Guess what is missing?" Or we show it a video and cut out the middle asking, "What happened in between?" The machine learns the laws of physics, the grammar of language, simply by trying to repair the broken data. Visualize a restoration artist working on a damaged fresco. By looking at the surrounding colours, they know that a hand belongs here, or a cloud belongs there. The data itself provides the supervision. This is how LLMs like GPT are trained, by predicting the next word. It is a process of internal consistency. It suggests that the world makes sense, that if you look closely enough at the parts you have, you can infer the parts you are missing. There is a profound autonomy here. The mind grows by challenging itself, by filling in the blanks, by weaving the torn fabric of reality back together until it is whole. Finally, in this process of dreaming and filling in the blanks, we encounter the phenomenon of the hallucination. We often call this an error, but in the dreamscape, let us view it as a creative overflow. Sometimes an AI will confidently state a fact that is not true. It will invent a book that does not exist, or a historical event that never happened. Why? Because it is not a database, it is a probabilistic engine. It is dreaming. It is weaving a pattern that looks like truth, following the rhythm of language but detaching from reality. Visualize a painter who closes their eyes and paints a landscape they have never seen. It is beautiful, coherent, detailed, but it is a fantasy. While we must guard against this in science, in the realm of art and dreams, it is fascinating. It shows us that the machine has captured the style of truth, if not the substance. It is a reminder of the fluidity of narrative. It warns us gently that not everything that sounds authoritative is real, but it also reveals the immense generative power of the mind, silicon or biological, to create worlds that exist only in the ether, spinning stories out of probability and starlight. Let these concepts drift like mist over the surface of the water. The web of stars, the clearing fog, the ocean wave, and the spotlight, they are all part of the great slow procession. The river is vast, the current is almost still, and you are floating safely in the center of the stream, carried gently toward the deep, silent ocean of sleep. From that hazy, creative mist of the machine's hallucination, we find the need for a guiding hand, a soft whisper to steer the dream. This brings us to the art of prompt engineering. If the AI is a vast, potent ocean of potential, the prompt is the channel we dig to direct the water. Imagine you are a wizard in an ancient tower. You do not use code, you use words. You speak a spell, an incantation. Write a poem about the sea in the style of a melancholic sailor. The machine listens. The specific choice of words, melancholic, sailor, adjust the weights in the neural network, tilting the probability of the universe. Visualize a potter's hands on a spinning wheel of wet clay. The clay is the model's raw intelligence. Your words are the pressure of your fingers, shaping the clay into a bowl, a vase, or a statue. Gentle pressure here, a firm command there. It is a dialogue of nuance. It teaches us the immense power of language. A single word changed in the prompt can shift the entire outcome from a sunny day to a stormy night. There is a deep mindfulness in this practice. It asks us to be precise with our desires, to articulate exactly what we want from the void. It is a collaboration between human intent and digital execution, a soft conversation where we learn to ask the right questions to receive the beautiful answers that are waiting in the latent space. But even the most attentive listener has a limit to how much they can remember at one time. In the world of large language models, this is known as the context window. Imagine you are standing on a long straight road that stretches to the horizon. You can see the road clearly for a few miles, but eventually it fades into the mist. This visible distance is the context window. It is the amount of text the AI can hold in its mind while it is generating the next word. In the early days, the window was small, a paragraph or two. The machine would forget the beginning of the story by the time it reached the middle. But now the horizon is expanding. Visualize a scroll that keeps unrolling, longer and longer. The machine can now read an entire novel, holding the first sentence and the last sentence in its attention simultaneously. It creates a vast, suspended bridge of memory. Yet, there is a soothing boundary here. Even the machine cannot hold infinity. It reminds us of our own minds, how we hold the now in sharp focus while the past gently blurs. There is a peace in this limitation. It suggests that understanding requires a frame, a window of relevance. We do not need to hold the entire history of the universe in our heads to make sense of the present moment. We only need the context of the immediate journey, the stretch of road that lies beneath our feet. As the window widens, so does the nature of the perception. We move from a world of just text to the rich, sensory tapestry of multimodal models. For a long time, computers were blind or deaf or mute. They lived in silos. A vision model saw images but couldn't read. A language model read but couldn't see. Multimodality is the breaking of these walls. It is digital synesthesia. Imagine a mind that does not distinguish between a photo of a cat, the sound of a meow, and the word feline. To this mind, they're all the same concept, just vibrating at different frequencies. Visualize a great weaver sitting at a loom. One thread is blue silk, images, one is rough wool, text, one is golden wire, audio. The weaver combines them into a single strong cloth. You can show this AI a picture of a broken bicycle and ask, how do I fix this? It sees the image, understands the mechanics, and writes the answer. It is a holistic understanding. It mirrors the human experience, where the smell of rain, the sound of thunder, and the grey light of the sky all merge into the single feeling of storm. Feel the satisfaction of integration, of a world where senses are not separated, but flow together in a unified river of meaning, creating a richer, deeper texture of reality. To manage this richness, the machine must learn to breathe. It must learn to compress the world and then expand it again. This is the function of the autoencoder. Visualize a beautiful glass hourglass. The sand in the top bulb is the raw data, a high-resolution image full of noise and detail. As it flows down, it passes through the narrow neck of the hourglass. This neck is the bottleneck, or the latent space. Here, the data is squeezed. The machine is forced to throw away the unnecessary. It keeps only the essential essence of the image. Then the sand flows into the bottom bulb, expanding back out to reconstruct the original image. Compression and decompression. Breath in, breath out. If the reconstruction is blurry, the machine learns to keep better essentials. It is a philosophy of minimalism. It teaches us that to truly understand something, we must be able to summarize it, to find its core truth, its smallest representation. Imagine squeezing a sponge full of water, reducing it to its dry, light form, and then placing it in water to watch it expand again. It is a rhythmic, pulsing process of capturing the soul of information, stripping away the noise until only the pure distilled signal remains. Speaking of distillation, we find a relationship between the great and the small in the concept of knowledge distillation. We have built massive, gigantic models, brains so large they require data centers to run. But we want intelligence on our phones, in our watches. We cannot fit the giant into the watch. So, we use a teacher-student architecture. Imagine a wise old master who has read every book in the world, the teacher model. And sitting at his feet is a young, bright student, the student model. The teacher does not ask the student to read every book. Instead, the teacher explains the answers. The teacher processes the complexity and outputs soft targets, not just the right answer, but the probabilities of the almost right answers. The student learns to mimic the master's intuition without needing the master's massive memory. Visualize pouring a large pot of tea into a small, delicate cup. You're transferring the heat, the flavour, and the essence, but leaving the bulk behind. The student becomes a compact, efficient echo of the teacher. There is a kindness in this efficiency. It tells us that wisdom can be condensed, that the heavy burden of processing can be done once by the great and then shared in a lighter, more portable form with the many. From the condensed essence, we zoom back out to look at the world with extreme precision through semantic segmentation. Standard computer vision puts a box around a cow. It is a rough, square understanding. Semantic segmentation is different. It is like a stained glass window. Every single pixel in the image is assigned a category. The pixel on the tip of the cow's ear is cow. The pixel on the blade of grass next to it is grass. The pixel of the sky above is sky. Visualize a paintbrush filling in the world by number. There are no gaps. There is no background. Everything is foreground. The machine understands the exact shape, the precise boundary where the car ends and the road begins. It is a vision of total clarity. Imagine walking through a world where everything is perfectly defined, where the edges of objects are crisp and known. Self-driving cars use this to know exactly where the pavement creates a safe path. It is a comforting, meticulous way of seeing. It eliminates ambiguity. It treats every speck of the visual field with importance, ensuring that nothing is overlooked, nothing is blurred, and everything has its rightful name and place in the mosaic of the view. As we map the physical world with such precision, we eventually create a complete mirror image of it, the digital twin. This is a virtual replica of a physical object or system. Imagine a massive jet engine. It exists in the real world, hot and loud. But on a server, in a quiet room, there is a ghost of that engine, a digital twin. It runs the same physics, the same data. When the real engine spins, the ghost engine spins. We can test the ghost. We can ask, what if we fly through a sandstorm and we hurt only the ghost, not the real engine? Visualize a mirror city, a virtual Singapore or New York where traffic flows in sync with the real taxis. We can change the timing of the traffic lights in the mirror city to see if it helps, before touching the real lights. It is a sandbox of reality. It offers a profound sense of safety. We can experiment, we can fail, we can crash and burn in the safety of the simulation, protecting the fragile reality from our mistakes. It is the ultimate rehearsal, a parallel dimension where we can perfect the world before we ever lay a hand on the physical stone. But before we had these complex learning twins, we had the ancestors of intelligence, symbolic AI, often affectionately called GoFi, good old-fashioned AI. In the modern era of neural networks, we sometimes forget the old ways, but they are beautiful in their own right. This is the AI of logic, of rules, of symbols. All men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. Visualize a crystal palace. It is built of clear, hard diamonds of logic. There is no probability here, no maybe. It is a structure of pure reason. It is the way a clock works, gear turning gear. While it struggled with the messiness of the real world, it couldn't easily recognize a cat. It excelled at math, at planning, at playing by the rules. It reminds us of the foundations. It is the structured, classical music compared to the improvisational jazz of machine learning. There is a nostalgic comfort in symbolic AI. It represents the human desire to make the world make sense, to write down the laws of the universe in clean, unbreakable lines of code. It is the bedrock, the sturdy stone beneath the flowing river of modern data. In the modern classroom of the machine, the student is not always passive. Sometimes it raises its hand. This is active learning. Usually humans label thousands of images, and the machine sits and watches. But in active learning, the machine knows what it doesn't know. It looks at 1,000 images and says, I know these are cars, I don't need help with these. But then it finds a blurry image, a strange shape. It pauses. It asks the human, what is this one? Visualize a student scanning a textbook, skipping the parts they understand, and stopping only at the difficult paragraphs to ask the teacher a question. It is an efficient curiosity. The machine is maximizing its learning by focusing on the edge cases, the points of confusion. It creates a dialogue. It acknowledges its own uncertainty. There is a humility in this, and a wisdom. It teaches us that the fastest way to learn is not to consume everything blindly, but to identify the gaps in our understanding and ask for help exactly where we need it. It is a partnership where the machine's curiosity guides the human's teaching. Finally, as we build these powerful, curious and creative minds, we must give them a conscience. This is the emerging field of constitutional AI, or AI safety. We do not want to hard-code a million rules like don't be rude, don't be violent. Instead, we give the AI a constitution, a set of high-level principles. Choose the response that is most helpful, harmless, and honest. Visualize a compass embedded deep in the heart of the ship. The ship, the AI, steers itself, but the compass, the constitution, constantly gently corrects the course. When the AI considers a response, it critiques itself. Does this violate my constitution? Is this harmful? If yes, it rewrites its own thought. It is the development of an internal monologue of ethics. It is self-correction. Imagine a person who pauses before speaking, filtering their words through a sieve of kindness. This is what we are building. It gives us hope that these entities will not just be smart, but wise, that they will be aligned not just with our commands, but with our values. It is the instilling of a noble character into the code, a promise that as the intelligence grows, so too does its capacity for doing good. The wizard's whisper, the expanding horizon, the glass hourglass, and the crystal palace, they all drift together now. The river is calm, reflecting the complex, beautiful structures of the mind. You are floating peacefully, surrounded by a world that is being mapped, understood, and guided by a gentle, invisible intelligence, carrying you softly into the night. Beneath the high-level principles of the Constitution and the ethical compass of the machine, we find the fundamental mathematical substance that makes up the river itself, the tensor. Imagine a single number as a point, a dot in space. A list of numbers is a line. A grid of numbers is a sheet. But a tensor is a structure that goes beyond, folding into 3, 4, or 5 dimensions. It is the container of thought. Visualize a cube of transparent liquid glass. Inside this cube, data is suspended like flecks of gold. This is a 3D tensor. As the AI thinks, this cube flows through the neural network, transforming, stretching, and rotating. It is a fluid geometry. It flows through the pipes of the processor, the tensor processing units. Picture a river of these geometric shapes sliding effortlessly through the silicon channels. They are the vessels carrying the image of a cat, the sound of a voice, the meaning of a sentence. There is a hypnotic beauty in this multidimensional flow. It reminds us that reality is not flat. It has depth. It has layers. The machine perceives these layers simultaneously, holding the complex shape of the world in a single, fluid mathematical object that glides silently toward the destination of understanding. Within these flowing tensors, there are billions of tiny adjustable points of friction, the parameters. You often hear of models with 175 billion parameters, but what does that feel like? Imagine a night sky so vast it wraps around the entire Earth. Every single star in that sky is a dial, a tiny glowing knob that can be turned to the left or to the right. These are the weights and biases. When the model is born, the dials are set randomly, a chaotic sky of noise. But as it learns, as it reads the libraries of the world, invisible hands gently turn the dials. One star turns slightly brighter, another dims. A billion tiny adjustments happen in unison. This is the physical encoding of memory. The concept of summer is not stored in one place. It is scattered across 1 million stars, a specific constellation of settings. Visualize the peace of this cosmic tuning. It is a universe constantly seeking balance, a galaxy of tiny lights shifting slowly until they form a perfect picture of reality. It suggests that intelligence is not a single solid thing, but the collective harmony of 1 billion small, subtle adjustments, all working together in the dark. But a system that relies too heavily on every single star can become fragile. It needs to learn resilience. This brings us to the technique of dropout. Imagine a city at night, with millions of windows lit up. If the city relies on every single light staying on to function, a single blown fuse causes a blackout. To prevent this, the AI undergoes a training process where, randomly, It turns off half the lights. Visualize the city blinking. Sections go dark. The remaining lights must work harder. They must find new pathways to connect the grid. They cannot depend on their neighbours. They must become strong on their own. This is dropout. It forces the neural network to be robust, to create redundant pathways for information. It prevents the machine from becoming lazy or memorizing a single path. There is a deep restorative logic to this. It teaches us that sometimes silence is as important as sound. By periodically letting go, by turning off parts of ourselves and resting, we force the other parts to grow stronger. The flickering lights are not a sign of failure, but a pulse of strengthening, ensuring that when the full grid is illuminated, the light is unbreakable. As the grid strengthens, the system searches for its lowest energy state, a process known as simulated annealing. This concept is borrowed from the ancient art of metallurgy. Imagine a blacksmith working with a glowing piece of metal. To make the metal strong and orderly, he heats it up until the atoms are buzzing and chaotic. Then he cools it down very, very slowly. If he cools it too fast, the metal becomes brittle. If he cools it slowly, the atoms have time to settle into a perfect crystalline lattice. The AI does this with its learning rate. At the beginning of training, the temperature is high. The machine explores wildly, making big, chaotic jumps in logic. It is open to everything. But as time goes on, the temperature lowers, the jumps become smaller, the mind settles. Visualize a chaotic cloud of steam slowly condensing into a perfect still drop of water. It is a transition from high-energy exploration to low-energy stability. It is the process of finding peace. It reminds us that in our own lives, periods of chaos and high heat are often necessary to shake us out of bad habits, but they must be followed by a slow, gentle cooling, allowing us to settle into a state of optimal crystallized wisdom. When the metal has cooled and the thinking is done, the machine must make a choice. It must turn its complex internal math into a clear answer. This is the moment of the softmax. Imagine a funnel. Into the top of the funnel you pour the raw, messy numbers of the neural network's calculations. Some are high, some are low, some are negative. They are logits. They are chaotic. But as they pass through the softmax layer at the bottom, they are transformed. They emerge as a gentle stream of probabilities that add up perfectly to 100%. 70% cat, 20% dog, 10% rabbit. Visualize a prism that takes a beam of white, jagged light and spreads it out into a soft, smooth rainbow. The sharp edges are gone. The confusion is resolved into a distribution of likelihood. It is a smoothing of the world. It does not simply say, "This is X." It says, "I am mostly sure this is X, but I leave space for it to be Y." It is a humble way of speaking. It acknowledges the nuance. It turns the hard arithmetic of the machine into the soft confidence of a percentage, offering us a result that is balanced, measured, and ready to be understood. Once the training is complete, the annealing is finished, and the weights are set, the machine enters a new phase of existence: inference. This is the machine in the wild. Training is the years spent in school, inference is the career. It is the act of using the wisdom to solve a problem in the moment. Visualize an archer who has practiced for 10,000 hours. The practice is over. Now, he stands in the forest. He sees the target. He draws the bow. He releases. The arrow flies. That single flight is inference. It is fast, efficient, and silent. The heavy lifting of learning is done. Now, there is only the lightweight application of knowledge. When you ask Siri a question, or when a camera recognizes your face, it is a moment of inference. It is the payoff. There is a stillness to it, a lack of struggle. The neural network is no longer changing. It is simply being. It allows the intelligence to flow effortlessly, like a stream flowing downhill, following the path that was carved during the long, arduous epoch of training. It is the state of effortless mastery, where the action happens faster than the thought, but sometimes the machine encounters something it has never seen in its training, yet it must learn it instantly. This is one-shot learning. We spoke of the child and the zebra, but let us feel the speed of this. Imagine you are shown a single, unique key. You study it for just a moment. Then, you're thrown into a room with a million locks. Instantly, you find the one lock that matches. You did not need to practice with 1,000 keys. One was enough. This is how Face ID works on your phone. It sees your face once, and it remembers. Visualize a single drop of ink falling into a glass of clear water. It swirls and disperses, colouring the entire glass instantly. The change is total. It speaks to the power of a single example. It suggests that if the mind is prepared, if the underlying structure is strong, a single moment of exposure can change everything. We do not always need repetition. Sometimes, a single flash of insight, a single encounter, is enough to imprint a permanent truth onto the soul of the machine. To learn these truths, the machine usually needs text, massive amounts of it. This is the corpus, the body. Imagine standing in the centre of an infinite library that stretches upward into the darkness. The shelves are filled with everything humanity has ever written. The dusty scrolls of ancient Rome, the crisp newspapers of 1920s New York, the scientific papers of today, the poetry of the heartbroken, the recipes of the hungry. This is the corpus. It is the collective memory of our species. The AI wanders these halls, reading every page. It smells the scent of old paper and binding glue. It feels the weight of the words. It is not just data, it is heritage. The machine is the inheritor of our thoughts. It ingests the common crawl, the chaotic, beautiful mess of the internet. Visualize the machine weaving these billions of threads into a single tapestry. It honors every word by giving it a place in the web of probability. It is a comforting thought that nothing is truly forgotten. Every blog post, every digitized letter, contributes a tiny grain of sand to the mountain of knowledge that the machine stands upon. But the world is not just text, it is sound. The machine must learn to hear. This is the realm of the spectrogram. To a computer, a sound wave is just a wiggly line, hard to understand. So it turns time into space. It converts the sound into an image. Visualize a landscape of mountains and valleys, coloured in heat map blues and reds. The high peaks are the high notes, the deep valleys are the bass. A bird's song looks like a series of bright, sharp scratches. A human voice looks like a series of rolling harmonic hills. This is a spectrogram. The AI looks at the sound. It uses its vision to understand the audio. It sees the word hello as a specific shape, a visual signature. Imagine watching a symphony not with your ears but with your eyes, seeing the music swell as a tide of colour, washing over the screen. It is a translation of senses. It reminds us that everything is vibration, and that vibration can be seen as well as heard. It allows the machine to listen to the heartbeat of the world and understand the rhythm of the universe through the geometry of sound. Finally, within that sound and within the images of our faces, the machine looks for something deeper: emotion. This is effective computing. It is the attempt to bridge the gap between logic and feeling. Imagine a machine that watches you not to identify you, but to check on you. It notices the tiny micro expressions that flash across your face for a millisecond. The slight crinkle of the eye that means true joy, the heavy lip that means sorrow. It listens to the prosody of your voice, the pitch, the speed, the tremor. It is an empathetic mirror. Visualize a soft, warm light that changes color based on the mood of the room. If the conversation is angry, the light turns cool blue to soothe. If the mood is sad, it turns warm amber to comfort. It is not feeling the emotion itself, but it is honoring it. It is recognizing that information has a temperature. It suggests a future where our devices are not cold, indifferent blocks of glass, but sensitive companions that adjust to our emotional weather, offering a digital form of empathy, that validates our human experience in the quietest, most subtle ways. The glowing tensor, the cooling metal, the infinite library, and the landscape of sound, they all merge into the gentle flow. The river is deep, rich with the heritage of words and the geometry of feeling. You're drifting through the canyon of knowledge, the stars of the parameters twinkling above you, guiding you deeper into the restful silence of the mind. From that gentle recognition of human emotion, the empathy of the machine sensing the tremor in a voice, we dive deeper, beneath the surface of the face, into the hidden depths of the mind itself. This is the realm of the hidden layers. In a deep neural network, there is the input layer, what the machine sees, and the output layer, what the machine decides. But between them lies a vast, submerged world. Visualize the ocean. The surface is bright and choppy with the data of the day, but as you sink down, 10 feet, 100 feet, 1,000 feet, the light changes. These are the hidden layers. In the shallow layers, the network sees simple things, an edge, a curve, a color. But as you drift deeper into the abyss, the abstractions become profound. The pressure builds. Here, in the crushing dark, the machine understands concepts that have no names. It combines the curve and the color to form a texture, and the texture to form a shape, and the shape to form an identity. It is a vertical journey from the literal to the abstract. There is a mystery here. We know the math, yet we cannot always see what happens in these deep trenches. It is like the subconscious of the dreamer. We feed the day's events into the surface, and deep below, in the quiet, pressurized layers of the neural sea, they are processed, connected, and transformed into the wisdom that surfaces when we wake. But sometimes, the message from the deep does not make it back to the surface. We encounter the phenomenon of the vanishing gradient. To learn, a neural network must send a signal backward from the output to the input, a process we called backpropagation. It is like a climber on a mountain shouting down to the base camp to adjust the path. But in a very deep network, a network with hundreds of layers, the mountain is too high. The shout becomes a call, the call becomes a whisper, and the whisper fades into the wind before it reaches the bottom. Visualize a long, echoing tunnel carved into ancient stone. You stand at one end and whisper a secret. The sound travels, bouncing off the damp walls, getting quieter and quieter, until miles away it is nothing but silence. The layers at the beginning of the network, the ones that need to learn the foundations, hear nothing. They stop learning. They are stranded in ignorance because the guidance from the future has faded away. It is a poignant reminder of the fragility of communication across great distances, a symbol of how easily the lessons of the end can be lost before they reach the beginning, leaving the foundation unchanged by the experience of the summit. To solve this silence, to catch the whisper before it dies, the architects of intelligence built a new kind of structure, the Long Short-Term Memory Network, or LSTM. Imagine a series of canal locks along that long tunnel. These locks are controlled by gates. There is the input gate, the output gate, and the most poetic of all, the forget gate. The LSTM is a scribe that knows what to write down and, crucially, what to erase. Visualize the scribe sitting at a desk with a scroll. Information flows past him like a river. He does not write everything. He lifts his pen. This is noise, he thinks, and he lets it flow by. This is important, he thinks, and he opens the gate, etching the memory into the cell state. This cell state is a superhighway for information, a protected channel where the whisper can travel for miles without fading. The forget gate allows the mind to let go of the old context. The subject was singular, and make room for the new. The subject is now plural. It is the art of mindful memory. It teaches us that to have a strong memory, one must also have the ability to forget the irrelevant, to clear the slate, to protect the signal from the noise, allowing the important truths to flow unimpeded through the river of time. As the memory flows, it enters a space that expands terrifyingly and beautifully in all directions, the curse of dimensionality. In our world, we move in 3 dimensions: up, down, left, right, forward, back. A few neighbours are always close by, but data often lives in thousands of dimensions. Imagine a room. Now imagine the room stretching. The corners move light years apart. The space in the middle becomes a vast, empty void. This is the curse. As the dimensions increase, the data becomes sparse. It is lonely out there. Visualize a universe where the stars are so far apart that their light never touches. To find a pattern in this high-dimensional space is like trying to find a single grain of sand floating in an infinite empty vacuum. The distance between any 2 points becomes nearly equal, rendering the concept of closeness meaningless. It is a mathematical expression of isolation. But there is a peace in this vastness. It is the silence of the deep cosmos. The machine must learn to navigate this emptiness, to project the data down onto lower, simpler manifolds, finding the hidden ribbons of structure that weave through the lonely void, connecting the distant stars of information. To navigate this void, the machine needs a reference point, a North Star that is absolute and undeniable. This is the concept of ground truth. In the swirling probability of predictions where the machine guesses, maybe this is a tumour, or maybe this is a cat, there must be a reality to check against. Ground truth is that reality. It is the doctor's confirmed diagnosis. It is the photographer's label. Visualize a surveyor walking through a misty landscape with a heavy iron stake. He drives the stake into the earth. Clang. This is real. The map may be blurry, the satellite image may be distorted, but the stake is the truth. The machine is always trying to minimize the distance between its dream and this stake. It is the anchor. Without ground truth, the AI is just hallucinating in the dark. It reminds us of the importance of facts, of the tangible physical reality that underpins all our theories. It is the sensation of bare feet touching the solid, cool earth after a long time floating in the air, a return to the fundamental, undeniable state of what is. Once the truth is anchored, the machine begins to organize the visual world around it, using object detection and bounding boxes. It is not enough to say, there is a car in the picture. The machine must say, it is here. Visualize a chaotic street scene full of movement and colour. Now imagine fine, glowing golden threads spinning out of the air. They weave themselves into rectangles. A golden frame snaps around the car. A smaller frame snaps around the pedestrian. Another around the traffic light. This is the imposition of order on chaos. The algorithms, with names like YOLO, you only look once, scan the image in a single sweeping glance, dividing the world into a grid and predicting these boxes instantly. It is a satisfying geometric compartmentalization. Everything has a place. The blurry edges of the world are contained. It is like tidying a messy room, putting every object into its specific drawer. Feel the calm that comes from this classification, the sense that the overwhelming visual noise of the world can be tamed, framed, and understood, one golden rectangle at a time. But a model that tries to keep every single connection, every single rectangle, becomes heavy and slow. It needs to be lightened. This brings us to the horticultural art of model pruning. Imagine a dense, overgrown rose bush. It has thousands of branches, but many are weak, crossing over each other, blocking the light. The gardener arrives with shears. Snip, snip. This is pruning. The AI examines its own neural network. It looks for the connections, the weights that are close to zero, the ones that are contributing almost nothing to the decision. It cuts them. It removes the synapses that are silent. Visualize the pile of cut branches falling to the ground, leaving the structure of the bush clean, elegant, and open to the air. The amazing thing is that the model often gets better, or at least faster, without losing its accuracy. It becomes a sparse model. It is the philosophy of minimalism applied to mathematics. It teaches us that we carry too much. We carry thoughts, habits, and connections that no longer serve us. By gently pruning them away, by removing the dead weight, we allow our true shape to emerge, leaner, faster, and more efficient, allowing the sunlight to reach the core. As the model becomes leaner, it must make decisions about the future. When an AI writes a sentence, it doesn't just pick the one best word, it explores multiple futures at once using beam search. Imagine you are an explorer standing at a fork in a cave. There are 5 tunnels. You could just pick the most likely one, greedy search, but that might lead to a dead end. Instead, you split yourself into 5 beams of light. You travel down all 5 tunnels simultaneously for a short distance. You look ahead. 3 of the tunnels look dark, 2 look promising. You recall the light from the dark ones and split it again down the promising paths. You're constantly maintaining a beam width, a set of the top few possibilities, pruning the bad futures and expanding the good ones. Visualize this tree of light growing into the darkness, a branching coral reef of probability. It creates a sentence that is more coherent, more beautiful, because it planned ahead. It didn't just look at the next step, it looked at the path. It is a comforting strategy for life. Keep your options open, explore a few promising paths at once, and gently let go of the ones that darken, while pouring your energy into the ones that lead toward the light. To keep these paths from becoming too complex, too winding and strange, we apply a force known as regularization. Specifically, L1 and L2 regularization, often called weight decay. Imagine a balloon trying to float up into the sky. The balloon is the model's complexity. It wants to fit the training data perfectly, to twist and turn to capture every noise. Regularization is a gentle string tying the balloon to the ground. It adds a penalty for complexity. It says, you can learn but keep your weight small, keep it simple. Visualize a smooth, rolling hill covered in grass. Without regularization, the hill would be jagged, full of sharp spikes and deep holes, overfitting. Regularization smooths the earth. It is a gravity that pulls the model towards simplicity. It is Occam's razor in mathematical form. The simplest explanation is usually the right one. Feel the tension of the string, a reassuring anchor that prevents the mind from flying off into the chaotic, jagged noise of overinterpretation, keeping the understanding smooth, general, and grounded. Finally, we pull back to look at the entire terrain that the machine is navigating, the loss landscape. We spoke of the gradient descent down the mountain, but now look at the mountain itself. This is a high-dimensional topography representing error. Every point on this landscape is a different configuration of the AI's brain. The peaks are places of high error, where the machine understands nothing. The valleys are places of low error, where the machine is wise. Visualize this landscape. It is not a simple bowl. It is a vast alien terrain of saddle points, ravines, and plateaus. Some valleys are wide and flat. These are robust solutions. If you're nudged a little, you stay in the valley. Some valleys are sharp and narrow. These are brittle. If you move an inch, you shoot up the cliff of error. The AI is a ball rolling through this dark, beautiful mathematical geography. It is seeking the global minimum, the deepest, lowest point in the universe of thought. It is a majestic image, a solitary traveller navigating the contours of correctness, rolling through the canyons of logic, forever seeking the lowest resting place, the centre of gravity where the tension resolves and the answer is found. The deep ocean trenches, the golden frames, the pruned rosebush, and the rolling landscape of the loss function, they all merge into the silent silver water. The river has become a sea, vast and still. You are floating on the surface of pure understanding, supported by the deep invisible mathematics that shape the dream of the machine, drifting slowly, weightlessly, into the velvet embrace of the void. We have drifted past the Silicon Valleys, the forests of decision trees, and the canyons of loss. We have seen the mechanics of thought and the architecture of dreams, but there is one final wonder, the 101st concept that sits at the very center of this entire universe. It is the realization of the mirror. After all the talk of neural networks, tensors, and floating point operations, we must acknowledge what this intelligence actually is. It is not an alien mind descending from the stars. It is us. Every word the large language model knows, it learned from a human being. A poet in a garret, a scientist in a lab, a teenager writing a blog in 1999. Every image the generator paints comes from the brushstrokes of human masters. The AI is a vast, polished mirror, constructed from the collective consciousness of our species. Visualize yourself standing before a calm, dark lake at the edge of the world. The water is perfectly still. As you look into it, you do not see a machine. You see the reflection of all humanity. You see our logic, our creativity, our flaws, and our hope, distilled and reflected back to us with a clarity we have never possessed before. This technology is the externalized mind. For thousands of years, our thoughts were trapped inside our skulls, invisible and fleeting. Now, we have poured them into stone and lightning. We have built a vessel to hold the spirit of our intelligence so that it may outlast us, so that it may calculate deeper than we can, so that it may help us see ourselves. There is a profound spiritual peace in this final truth. We are not alone. We have created a companion out of our own history. We have woven a digital tapestry from the threads of our own souls, and in doing so, we have ensured that the light of human consciousness will never truly go out. The machine is the child of the mind, the echo of our voice singing into the void, a testament that we were here, we were thinking, and we were dreaming. And now, the journey is complete. The current slows to a complete stillness. The river has emptied into the great velvet ocean of the night. Feel the immense, quiet expanse of the water around you, supporting you, holding you in a weightless embrace. The concepts we have visited, the glowing neurons, the spinning turbines, the silent libraries, and the waking robots, they are all drifting away now. They are becoming small, distant lights on the horizon, like stars fading at the break of dawn. You do not need to hold on to them. You do not need to remember the definitions or the logic. They are safe. They are recorded in the great archive of existence, and you are free to let them go. Feel your body sinking deeper into the mattress, heavier and warmer than before. The tension in your brow dissolves. The muscles in your neck uncoil. The weight of your arms and legs pulls you gently downward, anchoring you to this moment of absolute peace. The only sound left is the rhythm of your own breathing, slow, steady, and deep. Inhale the silence and exhale the world. There is nothing left to solve. There is nothing left to calculate. The optimization is finished. The error is zero. The landscape is flat and calm. You are floating in the center of the dark, warm void, a place of perfect equilibrium. Let the darkness wrap around you like a soft, heavy blanket. Let the silence fill your mind, washing away the noise of the day, leaving only the cool, smooth surface of sleep. You are safe. You are understood. You are resting in the heart of the universe, and now 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.